Arel is a young boy who lives in a fantasy world where everyone has a blessing in the form of a class given to them by their goddess. This class decides what they are going to become when they grow up, and it is revealed to them when they turn 10 years old. Today is Arel's big day since he just turned 10 and is going to be assigned a new class. His parents and his sister are excited at the prospect, fantasizing what kind of cool class will Arel get, but he himself looks uninterested in this entire system. After having breakfast, they all quickly move towards the church where a priest stands near an altar, touching underage boys, which is a universal thing in every world, I guess. He starts telling each kid what is going to be their class, as some become blacksmiths and some become chefs. Arel's sister tells him that classes are also influenced by what your parents' classes are, so he is probably going to get something really cool. When Arel's number comes, he walks up to the priest, while everyone starts mumbling excitedly amongst themselves about what kind of legendary class will this kid get, since his mother is a sword saint and his father is an archmage. The priest himself is excited at the opportunity to touch another boy, but when he presses Arel's forehead, it confuses him, since nothing happens. He finally looks down at Arel in pity and tells him that he was born without a class. A couple days pass by, and Arel's parents try to raise his spirits by telling him that he doesn't need to worry about getting a job, and he can always live in their basement forever. But Arel isn't really worried about himself. He tells his family that he is not depressed, claiming that he has been practicing the art of swordsmanship since he was a child. He has been honing his skills day in and day out, and of course it would have been much easier for him to advance if he got the swordsman class. But even without it, he can make his way into the world based on the sheer amount of hard training he has done with his overpowered mom. His family is relieved by this, while he walks off to spend some time alone when he overhears a bunch of noise coming from the training ground. There he notices two guys sparring with each other, and even though their basics seem to be weak, just getting blessed with the swordsman class seems enough to make them capable fighters. They notice Arel watching them and ask why he is standing here. Arel replies that he came here to practice, which makes them laugh. They claim that a classless guy can never spar with an actual swordsman and demonstrate their abilities by hacking at each other with their swords. Arel, however, is not impressed and asks whether they would like to spar with him. The boys think that Arel must be joking, but agree for a match. Before the match could start though, the boy asks Arel whether he has divine protection at least. Unlike the classes, everyone is born with divine protection from birth, which is like a barrier which protects them from harm, but it can run out or be broken by someone who is much stronger than them. Arel nods that he has the protection, which means that the boy can now go all out on him without the fear of killing him. Arel, however, tells him that he doesn't need divine protection to beat brats like him, which enrages the boy, who runs at Arel and swings his sword hard. Arel easily manages to parry the attack, which shocks the brat, who starts swinging his swords wildly at him, but Arel manages to block and deflect every single attack thrown at him. The boy starts getting desperate, and his friend jumps in from the back to take Arel down, but he is too quick and jumps out of the way in time. He realizes that compared to his mom, these boys are nothing in front of him, so 2-on-1 might make for a better match. With that, he rushes towards them and knocks one of the boys out with a pommel to the chin, while the other boy loses his balance after tripping over his friend and gets knocked down. They both start crying about unfairness like sore losers, when suddenly a red-haired boy enters the ring and tells both the idiots to shut their mouths up, as if this was a battlefield. They would have been dead already. Arel doesn't recognize him, but the red-haired boy seems to know him as he walks straight up to him and challenges him to a duel. He claims that Arel only managed to defeat these two chumps because he has got some innate ability from her mother, the Sword Saint, but since he is a classless loser, he will never be able to stand in front of someone with a class as well as basic training. The red-haired boy finally tells them that he is the son of Captain Evans, the leader of the village guards. Arel suddenly remembers the captain when he came to his mother for help, but the boy doesn't look even remotely similar to the rugged man he saw. The boy wails about how Arel's mother is always considered the strongest, even though his father is also an expert swordsman, so finally, to show whose family is better, he is going to defeat Arel in a fight. They both take their positions and finally the match starts. The red-haired boy immediately presses the attack, trying to land a winning blow as soon as possible, but Arel has been practicing with his mom forever and has a very tight defense as well. Their speed is impressive as they zip through the training ground attacking each other, which leaves the two brats stunned on the ground. Arel realizes that even though the red-haired boy is much stronger than the other two idiots, he is using his anger to fight, which is making him sloppy. Arel tries to look for an opening before lunging in, but the red-haired boy is ready for that and uses his special aerial slashes. Arel manages to block one, but the other one hits him in the chest, knocking him to the ground. Arel is taken by surprise and asks what kind of trick was that, but the red-haired boy claims that it's a skill which a classless loser like him can never learn. A couple of days have passed by since that loss, but a new fire has been lit inside Arel. He goes inside the forest with his sword and starts practicing on his own on a dummy target, and after countless tries, he finally manages to replicate the twin slash which defeated him last time. Before he could even celebrate though, a goblin ambushes him by jumping out of the bushes, but it is not a match for him, since Arel turns around, unleashing his twin slash technique, which immediately drops the goblin to the ground. He feels excited about his newly learned technique when suddenly a huge roar erupts from deep within the forest which shakes Arel to the core. He immediately decides to run back to the village and alert the guards, but he overhears the shout of a boy as well, which stops him in his tracks. He realizes that the boy might be in trouble, and it will be too late till the guards arrive, so he decides to go into the forest himself. He walks quietly for a bit, when he finally spots an injured boy, who turns out to be the same red-haired guy who defeated him in training. The boy looks thoroughly beaten as he bleeds from all over his body, holding the sword up towards his enemy, who turns out to be a massive hobgoblin. Even Arel has never seen one in real life, since they never come near the village. He wonders whether he should run for help, since he doesn't know whether he is strong enough to defeat the monster, but he realizes that the red-haired boy would die for certain if he leaves. Arel finally makes up his mind and sneaks behind the hobgoblin, and just before the monster could finish the red-haired boy off, Arel unleashes a strong twin strike which slashes through the goblin, killing him immediately. The boy is shocked to see the hobgoblin dead on the floor, but more than that, he is shocked at the fact that Arel managed to use an attack which he only learned after years of training and the boost from his class. Arel gives the boy some holy water for recovery, and immediately after, the boy asks Arel how he managed to do that, and Arel replies that his attack has nothing to do with having a class, as anyone with enough skill, speed, and power can replicate it. He explains that after losing to his twin slashes before, Arel analyzed it closely and practiced again and again to understand the basics, so now he can modulate the attack however he wants. The boy is still not convinced and challenges Arel to a match, which is gladly accepted. They both stand in front of each other and use their abilities at the same time. To the boy's surprise, not only did Arel manage to successfully block his slash, but he also added a third slash which hits the boy and knocks him to the floor. The captain's son is furious, but Arel explains that he isn't bound by any skill which has limitations, so his only limit is his power and skill, which means he can add as many slashes as he wants if he is good enough. The boy gets back on his feet and engages in another quick battle, but this time again he gets hit by the third slash, stronger than before. He gets knocked to the ground once again as Arel claims the victory and walks off. 5 whole years pass by since that day, and Arel decides to leave on a journey to Brescia, the kingdom known for its swordsmanship. Both his mother as well as Captain Evans got their training from Brescia, and Arel wants to be the best of the best just like them. On his way, he is accompanied by a couple of strangers, 2 of them being swordsmen of a high caliber. The guy has the barbarian class, whereas the woman is known for her dual-wielding class. Both of them want to hone their skills in Brescia as well, but they can't seem to get along and are always at each other's throat. The cart driver tells them to settle down as all of them are going to the same location, but the man is too much of a misogynist and wants to send the woman back to the kitchen. Before they can argue more, however, the cart driver shouts at them to get their swords ready as they have got trouble. Arel calmly looks up and spots a horde of orcs alongside their huge leader blocking their way, with no intentions of letting them leave with their lives. 2 of the kids in the cart get scared and ask the barbarian guy to save them, but the barbarian, true to her name, is a total jerk and a coward, who claims that he is not willing to put his life on the line for someone else and jumps from the cart before running away. The woman follows him, claiming that everyone is on their own in this world. The cart driver gets worried, wondering whether he can outrun the horde with his cart and the passengers. But before he could do anything, Arel climbs down the cart without a single word and starts moving towards the monsters. The driver tells him to back off and run for his life, but Arel simply ignores him before dashing towards the first orc and stabbing it in the heart. The driver is shocked by his incredible speed and accuracy, while Arel simply uses instant transmission and keeps disappearing and appearing in front of the orc, taking them down one by one. Unfortunately though, he gets surrounded by a bunch of orcs on all sides, which means that he can't really use his dash skill anymore. But to the driver's surprise, Arel uses a legendary trick known as the blade dance, where he spins around like an idiot, cutting everyone down all at once. The cart driver doesn't understand how Arel can use that skill, since it is only used by the swordsmen with the sword princess class, and they are always women. Arel, however, isn't bound by the gender norms, as he wants to be the part of the LGHDTV community, so he runs towards the orc leader, dodging its attack expertly before jumping on top of him and burying his sword deep within the orc's skull, killing it immediately. He finally returns back towards the shocked driver and tells him to continue the journey to Brescia. While one of the kids asks what class he belongs to, he simply replies that he doesn't have any class, which completely shocks everyone. He remembers how 5 years ago, when he showed his mother the new twin blade skill he learnt, she thought that she was imagining things, but when Arel told her that he is training to replicate any skill he sees, she is beyond overjoyed and promised to teach him all of the skills used by the sword princess class. Back in the present, he is woken up by the driver who tells him that they have reached Brescia, the land of swords. Arel climbs down the cart and witnesses the town center flooded by people with swords strapped to their waists. Arel turns towards the driver and asks whether he is an advanced level swordsman. At first, the driver claims that he is just a cart driver, but Arel knows that only good swordsmen can identify the moves he was pulling on the spot. The cart driver admits that he is from the Holy Knights class, which is a pretty good class, but he gets bored of fighting so much, so he prefers to sometimes kick back and relax while pretending to be a normal driver. The Holy Knight realizes that this is probably Arel's first time in the city and tells him that he needs to find a guild for himself first, as without a guild he won't be able to fight in any tournaments, and in this city, fighting and winning the tourneys is the main way swordsmen prove their worth and earn money. Arel replies that he doesn't care about the money, but he wants to fight the strongest swordsman this place has to offer him. The driver tells him to be wary of toxic corporate guilds, as they can suck your soul and not in a good way. With that, the driver turns back and leaves, while Arel moves into the city, looking at all the different people announcing their guilds, hiring people and swordsmen getting in line to try their luck for the better guilds. On the way, he ends up bumping into a blonde lowly who immediately latches onto him like Headless, telling him that she is the member of a famous guild and wants him to join them. Arel is immediately wary of her, since she seems very desperate for members, so he refuses. The lowly, however, doesn't leave him alone and keeps pestering him to join their guild again and again, but Arel's is not a simp and keeps refusing. He asks her what is the strongest guild here, and begrudgingly replies that the Shadowblade Guild is one of the strongest right now since it has 8 class as swordsmen. He asks her for the directions and immediately moves towards the guild. He gets stopped on the way by the guard who directs him towards the reception for the test. In the reception, he finds a huge line of budding swordsmen willing to try their luck to enter the famous guild, which excites Arel as well, who wonders what kind of amazing people he would have to fight against. But when his chance comes to register, the receptionist laughs at him for being a classless loser, claiming that only people with an advanced swordsman class can apply for the guild trials. Arel claims that he is sure he can pass their trial, but the receptionist refuses to register him. Saddened by this, he decides to leave when he spots 3 of the ranked swordsmen entering the hall, who are immediately treated like celebrities. He doesn't really care much about the theatrics though, and immediately turns towards other guilds, but one by one, he gets rejected by all of them on the basis of him not having a class. Tired, he goes back into the city, taking out the letter his mother gave him and told him to find her old guild, since they will surely help her find something. He wonders whether his mom knew that he would have this much trouble, but he is thankful nonetheless. Before he can even read the letter though, the blonde lowly latches onto him once again, claiming that they are still ready to take him in, but Arel refuses again. She literally starts begging him to join the guild, telling him to do it as a charity, and points at a beautiful guild house, claiming that it's her guild. This surprises Arel a little, but the lowly replies that their guild, known as the Dragonfang, used to be the best in the country for a very long time, but lately it's gone to shit and currently they are the weakest, but she wants to bring it back up to its former glory. The name Dragon Fang suddenly rings a bell as he remembers that his mom once told him about the leader of her guild who was a dual-wielding swordsman who named the guild Dragon Fang after his special move. He quickly takes out the letter to look for the name, and it in fact is the guild that his mom was talking about. He decides to go in with her, which makes her very happy. But the moment they enter the room, he finds an old drunk man with only one arm on the couch. The man tells Arel to go somewhere else since this guild is doomed and walks off, while the lowly tells him that he is her father, who used to be the second best swordsman of the city. But ever since losing his arm, he has never been the same. Arel, however, surprises her by saying that he wants to join the guild. This makes the lowly really happy, and she quickly drafts up an agreement, which Arel fills up and hands it back to her. She reads it before asking why he left the class column blank. That's when Arel replies that it's because he has no class. The lowly snaps and gets a sword out, claiming that she thought he might be an advanced class swordsman since he was acting so hard to get. But before she could say any more, the door opens and a red-haired beauty named Ray enters the room. The lowly immediately runs towards her, crying that this classless idiot deceived her into joining the guild. This gets Ray's immediate attention, and she looks towards Arel, claiming that she never thought she would see him here. Arel is confused and asks how she knows him, and Ray looks surprised, claiming that they were from the same village and trained together. That still doesn't ring a bell, but finally he realizes that the red-haired boy that he fought so many times before was actually not a boy, but a girl. The lowly knows about the story as well, and asks Ray whether this is the classless guy who defeated her when she was young, as she always thought that the story was a myth. Ray, however, is still stuck on that loss and challenges Arel to a match immediately. The fight starts and Ray immediately uses the twin slash attack, which Arel thinks he can counter, but to his surprise, Ray's slashes blast through his own and hit him straight in the chest. This confuses him, but Ray reveals that she has the power swordsman class, which is why she is able to use a sword that is 5 times heavier than a normal sword, which means that she has 5 times the power in each sword strike. Arel is impressed by the fact that she has still retained her speed even after using a heavier sword, but that speed is nothing in front of his own speed. The next time she attacks, he creates an after image of himself, which distracts Ray while he appears behind her and hits her in the back. Ray is confused and tries again, but the result is the same. She can't believe that Arel is using a technique which is only used by the most advanced level swordsmen, while Arel realizes that she is too tanky to take down with his normal attacks. Ray also knows this and tries to end the fight with her heavy blows, but Arel uses his mother's signature counter, which brings Ray to her knees, and the fight is over just like that. With that, the lowly's demeanor changes completely, and she welcomes him once again to their guild, and tells him that their guild is in crippling debt right now. To get out of debt, they will have to enter the tournaments and fight as a 3-man group against other guilds who will have all 5 members in a team. Arel, however, is excited at the prospect of fighting against strong opponents and looks forward for the opportunity to hone his skills even more. The next morning, Arel wakes up in his own room in a new bed which now belongs to him. It takes him a little while to remember what all has happened since he arrived here. He now belongs to the same legendary guild which his mom worked with as well, which is a big thing for him, so he decides not to let her down and make this guild great again. He freshens up and walks into the living room where the lowly and Ray are both already up, chatting by the fire about the upcoming tournaments. Lowly immediately grabs Arel into the conversation, claiming that the tournament is going to start next week, and since they now have 3 members instead of 2, they are eligible to take part in the tournament as well. She tells Arel that it's going to be super hard since it will be an elimination-style tournament with one-on-one matches, but every guild will probably have 5 members, which will put them at a huge disadvantage, so they must defeat more than one opponent each if they want to survive even the first round. The lowly is pretty optimistic though, claiming that it should still be fine since their guild already has 2 B-rank swordsmen, so unless and until they don't end up fighting an A-rank swordsman, they should be equally matched in the fights. Arel is a little new to the concept and asks what exactly these ranks mean. The lowly explains that there are 5 total ranks from A to D, where it is the highest rank achievable, and out of 20 swordsmen in Brescia, only 20 are deemed to be a rank, whereas D rank is the rank of a complete beginner who only knows how to hold a sword. She proudly claims that both her and Ray are B-rank swordsmen themselves, and since Arel managed to defeat Ray in a straight fight, that means he is also a B-ranked swordsman just like them. Considering that they have 3 B-ranked swordsmen, they should have a good chance fighting the starting rounds at least. With that, the lowly goes into the kitchen, leaving Arel to his thoughts. While Ray was leaving though, he grabs her and asks about her abilities as a power swordsman. She still seems to be annoyed by her loss yesterday, but replies that one of her abilities is to harden up her outer mana shield to protect her from most of the low-powered attacks. Arel thinks about it for a while, wondering how exactly can he learn such a valuable technique when suddenly he comes up with an idea. He tells Ray to hit him with her sword still sheathed. Ray tells him that she is not interested, but Arel grabs her hand, pleading with her to do it. But Ray seems to be getting the wrong idea, thinking that Arel is in some kinky but she is not completely opposed to the idea and tells him that maybe they should start with something more normal. Arel doesn't respect the baddie in front of him, realizing that they are both thinking different things, and clears it up that he wants her to hit him so he can learn how to use the skill to harden up her mana protection shield, which would be the most effective when fighting against multiple attackers, as you are more likely to get hit in such situations. She is shocked by this and asks whether he has gone insane, since skills are only given by the divine grace of the goddess and is something which cannot be learned. But Arel is an atheist now and tells her to shut her trap since he already learned skills like twin blade slice and instant transmission. This shuts Ray up, who gives in and decides to try it out once. They go into the training ground where she hands him her sword, warning that her sword is 5 times heavier than any normal sword, and without the brute strength skill, Arel will never be able to swing it. But Arel once again shuts up the feminist by grabbing her sword, unsheathing it and swinging it with surprising grace and ease. Ray is again left speechless, asking how the hell is he able to do all this while being classless and without any skills. Arel replies that whatever he has learned through dedication and daily practice. He vows to match their talent by pure hard work and effort. This changes Ray's heart, and she apologizes for her comments before taking back the sword and agreeing to the training, but warning him that she won't be holding back. Arel agrees and tries to flirt, but that moment has passed, and the baddie smacks him in the face with her sheathed sword. A little while later, the lowly comes running down to the training ground, breathless and stressed, and tells Arel and Ray that she just found out which guild they are up against, and it's not good news. She tells them that the group they are up against is none other than the members of the top guild Black Blade, which has over 8 ranked swordsmen, led by their leader Geo, who is known to be as vicious as a viper. But the lowly has no plans of backing down either, and with a fiery speech tells them that they will do their best to defeat their candidates. She then looks down at Arel, who is down on the ground after being battered by Ray during the training session. The lowly asks whether Arel is dead, but Ray replies that they are just doing some special training. But the lowly thinks that Ray is just venting out her stress on the newbie. Arel finally gets up, claiming that he is hungry after getting beaten up so much and wants some grub. A week flies by during the training, and finally the day of the competition arrives. People from all over the country gather at the Coliseum, discussing the match, while Arel is completely blown by how huge the venue actually is. The lowly overhears people claiming that the dragon fangs crashed and burned, which flares her temper. But Ray manages to stop her. Arel realizes that people also gamble here, putting money on which teams are going to win, and the lowly tells him that currently the odds in their fight are 20-1. Arel claims that it's pretty impressive, but lowly shouts at him to shut up since it means no one in the entire city believes that they can win against the Black Blade Guild. But this can also be a blessing in disguise, since if they manage to win, they can get away with loads of money from a single match. Ray tries to calm her down, but she is too far gone, as with a fire burning in her eye. She claims that they have to win this match no matter what, because if they lose, there will be no guild anymore, and to make sure that they become super rich after their match, she has taken a loan by putting the guild house as a collateral, so if they win, their lives will be changed forever, and no one would talk about them as a crappy guild which used to be good. Ray asks what if they lose though, and the lowly replies that it doesn't even matter, cause if they lost, they would have lost everything anyways. Suddenly, she gets called out by a guy who turns out to be none other than Geo, the leader of the Black Blade Guild, who starts belittling the lowly, and explains that it was him who pulled a few strings to make it so the very first match is between their guilds. It's going to be an easy fight for them, which they are bound to win, and alongside that they can completely diminish the last embers of the guild, which used to be the best once upon a time. He tells her not to worry though, as if she manages to win, that would mean that she has the best guild. But that would only happen if she manages to defeat their rank swordsman. But with a classless loser in their team, it doesn't look likely. With that, he laughs at his own ingenuity and bids them good luck before walking off. Soon they enter the arena where Arel realizes that Geo himself doesn't seem to be fighting and wonders whether that increases their chances of winning. But Ray tells him that their entire team is ranked, so it doesn't matter. Plus, their current lineup seems to be more aggressive than usual. Finally, the time for battle arrives, and the announcer introduces the contestants. From the side of Black Blades, a green-haired boy with the Fencer class is sent forward, who haughtily declares that he will defeat the entire opposing team. While the commentator gets surprised when he sees that from the side of Dragon Fangs, Arel the classless swordsman is going to fight. The Fencer boy seems disinterested since it wouldn't matter how quickly he defeats a classless idiot, but decides to do it anyways since then he can match up against the girls. The match starts, and within seconds, the Fencer bloke dashes and stabs Arel through the chest, surprising everyone with his speed. But while Loli gets worried about Arel, Ray tells her to look carefully, as it turns out that it was simply Arel's shadow. The Fencer seems surprised, but it doesn't faze him, and he turns around and lunges again, only to find another after image. He realizes that this is not going to be over as quick as he would have hoped as he gets surrounded by images of Arel, but it doesn't matter to him as he plans to use his speed to stab them all. The after images all attack at once, and the Fencer slashes through them all, only to get stabbed by the real Arel, who managed to produce 3 after images, which is supposed to be really difficult. The Fencer falls to the ground, and the match is over just like that. Arel claims that his mother used to practice with him while using 5 images at once, and that was her going easy. The commentator is shocked as the public erupts with cheers for the classless candidate. He realizes that even though he tried the exact same technique as the Fencer boy, his wasn't as refined, which means he would have to work upon it even more. The next match Arel faces is against a dual wielder who pushes on the attack with a constant barrage of sword strikes. But Arel manages to block them all before using the twin slash attack to take his opponent down. With 2 down, the next opponent he faces turns out to be a reverse grip dagger wielder, who is more careful in his step and uses a bunch of martial arts techniques alongside his blade. But that was of no use, since Arel is too fast for him and confuses him with the after images before striking him down from behind. Ray and Loli are both shocked by the fact that this man just defeated 3 ranked swordsmen without breaking a sweat in record time, which actually fills the Loli with hopes of actually winning the match. The next match turns out to be a little more difficult since he is matched up against a shield swordsman who are known to be tough, and since Arel can't land any critical hits, he is forced to dance around and slowly wear down his protection bit by bit. His opponent screams at him that he can't possibly be a classless person, but Arel replies that whatever he has achieved it's through sheer hard work and nothing else. The brute tells him that hard work won't take him very far when up against talent, as he rushes forward with his shield bash skill. But Arel manages to use one of his mother's signature technique of foresight as he predicts his enemy's movements and manages to kick the shield down. With that, he uses the technique he learned from his last opponent, the martial arts guy, and kicks the brute in the stomach. He then picks up the shield and starts moving forward. The brute gets enraged and tries to attack, but Arel manages to parry before dashing forward and using the same shield bash to destroy his opponent. People start rioting and calling him a liar who isn't disclosing his rank and class. So the organizers bring in his class ID towards the magic crystal ball and broadcast live that he indeed is a classless person. With that out of the way, the next opponent is announced who seems to be different. This swordsman is named Masamune, and he turns out to be of the samurai lineage from the east with a curved sword called a katana. Before Masamune even takes his sword out, Arel senses the danger and gets ready, knowing that this fight won't be as easy as the others. He realizes that Masamune is planning to use his ultimate skill, and like a snake is waiting to strike. But Arel is curious, so he moves forward, putting himself in danger. The moment he enters the swordsman's range, Masamune snaps out his sword towards Arel, but somehow Arel is faster and disappears behind him. Masamune is shocked, but Arel tells him that he genuinely is the fastest person he has seen in the city, but unfortunately for him, his own mother was much faster, so he is used to it. With that, he uses the sword princess's ultimate skill, stabbing his enemy multiple times, defeating him. With that, everyone is shocked into silence as the supposed weakest member of the weakest guild just clean sweeped the strongest members of the strongest guilds. Arel walks off towards Ray and the Loli, feeling content about the fact that they should have earned enough money to keep the guild going. That evening, when they return back to the guild house, They immediately started celebrating with drinks all around. Arel was still shocked at the fact that the loli was old enough to drink, but she claimed that she is a grown woman. Even if she looks a little small, she still can't believe that Arel single-handedly defeated 5 ranked swordsmen of the best guild in the country all alone. She decides that she must try to woo him, as he is her ticket to get out of poverty and obscurity. She tries to ask his hand in marriage, claiming that she can fulfill all his desires. But Arel is a true Sigma and rejects her outright, claiming that he would prefer someone like Ray instead. This immediately makes Ray blush, as she gets up from her seat, yelling at Arel to stop saying shit like that, just because he wants to turn Loli down. But Arel was seriously considering it. He asks why she would think that he is making fun of her, and she replies that when they were young, he called her a man during the sword fight. She claims that anyone who met her has said that she has no womanly charms, but Arel can see 2 big womanly charms right there in front of him and begs to differ. Loli realizes that Ray has absolutely no idea what her biggest strength is and how exactly she could use it, so she doesn't really need to worry about her. With that, she starts rubbing Arel's legs, claiming that he must be tired from all the fighting during the day, and tells him to meet her in the bedroom. Ray immediately gets embarrassed, telling Loli to stop saying weird things, but the loli smiles slyly, claiming that she is just going to give him a well-deserved massage after a tiring day. To her surprise though, Arel replies that he would rather have a massage from Ray. His idea of a massage was getting pummeled to a pulp by Ray in the training ground as he tries to master the reinforcement magic that Ray uses so effortlessly thanks to her class and skills. Loli watches from the balcony, wondering whether Arel has any idea what a massage actually is. The constant ruckus ends up waking Loli's father, who comes down to the training ground, completely hungover, complaining about the noise, claiming that they don't need to let out the frustration of losing the tournament even before it began in the middle of the night. Loli, however, tells him that they in fact won their match, which was against the current best guild. This grabs his attention, but he thinks that the Black Blade must have sent their rank B or C newbies as cannon fodder. But Loli surprises him even more by saying that all their opponents were a tier, and not only that, but Arel defeated them all on his own without any help. This shocks her dad out of his hangover, as he looks at Arel, bruised and battered, wondering if this kid is really that strong. Loli claims that she made a bunch of bets, and because Arel clean sweeped the enemy team, she hit the jackpot, and now not only are they out of debt, but also have enough money to cover their operating costs. Her dad, however, is not so optimistic, claiming that if by some luck this kid is actually that strong, he would soon get poached by bigger, more influential and richer guilds, so she shouldn't get her hopes high. Loli tells him not to worry about that since she is soon going to marry Arel, which means that they would be bound for life. Arel announces that he is not going to do anything like that, but soon turns his attention towards her father, claiming that Loli might be a thick-headed dip, but at least she is not a loser who gives up on everything. This was a clear dig at Loli's dad, who looks at him dangerously. But Arel doesn't get the hint and continues that he should stop with his moping act and start acting more his age, since he still has one remaining hand and can wield a sword in that hand. This triggers her dad, who immediately grabs Arel by the collar, telling him to avoid speaking on subjects he has no clue about. He tells Arel that a dual-wielding swordsman who can't dual-wield is nothing but a waste of oxygen. Arel claims that he doesn't agree since he himself is a classless swordsman who is still competing and trying to rise in this world. With that, her dad pushes him away and walks back upstairs. Loli and Ray immediately come to Arel's side, asking if he is okay, and Loli apologizes for her dad's behavior while thanking Arel for speaking up. Arel claims that even after losing his arm and being washed up for so long, her dad is still incredibly strong, and it's a waste that he is refusing to use his incredible strength and experience. He thinks to himself about all the cool skills he could learn from a dual-wielding swordsman, and promises to himself that he will motivate Loli's father Rod to take up the sword once again. Loli hears about his bid to learn new skills and suggests that he take on some of the dungeons near the city. Arel is completely oblivious about dungeons, so Ray tells him that dungeons are underground caves where monsters spawn in the hundreds and the entire place is full of traps, making it one of the best places to learn new skills and level up with more real-life battle experience, which would help them during the Sword God Cup. Arel has no idea what she is talking about, so she explains that the city every year hosts a tournament where the best swordsmen in the country participate to show their skills and prove that they are the single best swordsmen in the country. Loli immediately takes out a form and tells Arel to fill it if he wants to participate, but to Ray's horror, he rips it up right in front of them. Ray is confused and asks whether he doesn't want to participate in the contest, but Arel replies that Loli was trying to pull a fast one on him and gives him a marriage certificate to sign instead. The Loli laughs, claiming that she was just testing the waters, but Arel is done being a good boy and grabs her in a rear naked choke to teach her a lesson. The next morning, Arel wakes up to find Loli trying to assault him, but he dodges her and ties her to the bed before leaving. Later that day, they all go towards the dungeons together, where Loli explains that everyone gets to stand in the teleportation circles through which they can teleport to the dungeon level that they want, but you can only go to the levels which you have been to before. Loli claims that she has reached level 12, while Ray has reached 14. Arel immediately decides to go alongside Ray to the 14th level, but Loli claims that it doesn't work that way, and he needs to be physically present at the level to be able to go there again. That was a bummer since Arel wanted to fight the strongest monsters he could find from the outset, but the Loli tells him not to worry as she knows a really short route which will lead them to the lower floors very quickly. They agree to the plan, but Loli tries to get Arel all alone, claiming that Ray can continue her level 14 run since Arel wouldn't need 2 guides, and starts dragging him away. But Arel is not so easily manipulated and asks Ray to come with them. They enter the first floor where they are immediately attacked by 2 knights in armor. Arel draws out his sword and starts clashing with one of them while Ray takes the other one. He is surprised to notice that even after having heavy armors, the knight move with incredible agility, but it's nothing he can't deal with. So he uses his dash step and chops off the knight's head, only to realize that the entire armor is empty and is getting powered by the mana of the dungeon itself. The knight starts moving again even without its head, and Ray claims that they have no real weakness and don't feel pain either. So Arel decides to go for the legs, which works out beautifully as the magic knights collapse on the ground. Ray also deals with her opponent, claiming that they will soon regenerate so they need to move on. Before moving further though, Arel asks Loli what her class is, and she very proudly claims that she is a fencer, and promises to teach him anything he wants, in the training ground or in the bed, but Arel rejects her once again and moves on. Before entering the second level though, they hear cries of help coming from the door, and when they move closer, they find a man covered in blood, kneeling on the floor and begging for help. Ray suggests taking him above ground, but the man refuses, claiming that his friends are still inside and they got badly hurt by a booby trap. He begs them to help rescue his friends, but Loli immediately gets down to business asking for money in return for help. To her surprise, the man even pays her a good sum from the money he won gambling, but Arel senses something wrong. While walking behind the man, he notices that whenever he lost blood like that, he can't even sit on his own without holy water, let alone walk all the way back to a dangerous room. He realizes that the blood and the injuries are completely fake, but decides to keep this information to himself, just because he thinks this might lead to something interesting and fun. The man takes them to a secret room where they find a trail of blood and a puddle in the center with one singular gold coin. The sight of the coin immediately entices Loli, who goes to pick it up. When a teleport circle appears beneath them, Ray realizes that this was a setup, while the man grins at them, claiming that he got paid well to just do such an easy job. But to his surprise, the magic circle teleported him alongside the others. They all emerge on a floor which even Ray has not seen, meaning that it's even lower than the 14th floor, but no signs of strong enemies yet. The guy who pretended to be hurt was shaking from fear, as he stammered that this is supposed to be the lowest floor on the dungeon where the advanced sword god can be found. Suddenly, a knight with rainbow enchanted armor appears in front of them, but Loli refuses to believe the story of the sword god class, which everyone thought was just a myth. Arel, however, realizes the trouble that they are in and immediately pushes Loli down as the sword god sends an aerial slash so strong that it breaks the dungeon walls. Without wasting any time, the sword god attacks Arel, who barely manages to get his sword up in time, blocking the attack even though he gets shoved into the wall. He realizes that he survived that just because of the reinforcement magic training he got from Ray. He tries slashing back at his opponent, but the knight is extremely quick and uses all of the advanced moves to dash back. With that, he smiles, claiming that this is a good opportunity to test himself. This completely shocks his party while he uses the same divine step technique to close the distance and pushes on the attack, hitting the knight with a barrage of strikes which gets blocked. The knight is forced to back off, but uses a skill which causes gravity in the room to increase, forcing the others on the floor. But Arel easily maintains his stance since he has faced the same thing before when he was younger, training against his mom. He used all his strength back then just to be able to stand, so when his mom attacked, he wasn't able to do anything. But this time it's different. He uses the gold coin to nullify the attack, which creates a small opening, and Arel uses it to its full potential, Using one of his strongest abilities called Infinite Break, the knight shatters into pieces after that attack, shocking everyone present in the room. He regains his strength with some holy water, and then all of them safely exit the dungeon through the teleportation spell. Back in the bar, Rod was again drinking when he overhears a conversation between three young idiots talking about how they tricked the new members of the Dragon Fang Guild into a trap, and they are most likely never coming back. Rod walks up to them and breaks their table with a single punch, ordering them to reveal everything that they know, but he is interrupted by Jorg, who calls him a good-for-nothing drunkard. Rod immediately realizes that this must have been set up by Jorg, which means the chances of her daughter's survival are slim to none, completely broken. He lunges towards Jorg, but gets pushed aside like a peasant, while he kneels on the ground, wishing he could save his little girl. But a sudden voice from the door catches his attention, and he turns around to see Loli. Alongside Arel and Ray enter the tavern, talking about how hungry they are. Loli notices her dad and the ugly Jorg, but gets surprised when Rod hugs her tightly, thanking God for making sure her daughter was safe. Ray calls Jorg out, claiming that they got all the information out of his crony, who confessed that it was all Jorg's plan, but just like any politician, he straight up refuses to admit it, claiming that everyone is responsible for their own safety in the dungeons, and Arel thinks that it is a valid point. Rod tells Jorg that he won't get away with this, but Jorg simply calls him a drunkard, washed-up piece of trash and moves out of the room, while Arel wonders what new tricks he will have to deal with now. A couple days pass by, and now Loli gets a scroll which has all the preliminary brackets for the tournament. To her horror, she turns out to be in the same bracket as Arel, which immediately crushes her spirits, as it means that she definitely has absolutely zero chances of winning the prelims and actually representing her guild in the main tournament. Arel is a little confused about the concept of prelims, so Ray tells him that since the Sword God tournament inspires and attracts such a huge amount of aspiring swordsmen, it's almost impossible to take them all into the main tournament. So the city organizes the prelims with different brackets based on a dice roll. It's complete luck who faces who is in the bracket, and the winner from each bracket gets a direct ticket to the main tournament. Arel checks the scroll which Ray was reading and notices that she is in a different group than her. She thanks the god for that, since she would have no chances sizing up against Arel anyways. She starts praying to the god to help her clear the prelims without much trouble, while Arel pokes fun at her for having daddy issues. The Loli interrupts them, claiming that they need to return back to the dungeons for training. But Arel is too bored of the dungeons at this point and wants to dip. Loli, however, tries to act cute, telling him that she needs a strong man to defend her in case things go south. May realizes how pathetic Loli is and plans to teach her a thing or two about being independent. But before they could leave, Rod appears in the room, acting a little too dramatic as he grabs his daughter, telling her to be extra safe as they never know when Jorg will decide to strike again. Loli could see the fear in her dad's eyes, so she solemnly agreed to play it safe before walking out. Rod turns around and finds Arel silently judging him, but Rod claims that he still has time to pull his act together and be more of a protective dad to her daughter. Arel, however, simply smiles, claiming that it's never too late to be a nice person, and leaves. A couple weeks pass by, and finally the day of the prelims arrives. The matches start while the audiences cheer from the ramparts as the fighters clash against each other in a flurry of sparks and sword strikes. Slowly but surely the group starts to thin out as people get eliminated, and even Loli loses her match before even coming across Arel. She broods in the corner, sad about the results since she at least hoped to reach the finals this time around. But Arel doesn't care about his feelings, claiming that she was worried for no reason about not winning the prelims because they were in the same bracket, since she would have lost anyways. That leaves Loli even sadder than before, but she pulls herself together and tells him to keep his guard up even if he is really strong, since the other finalist of their group has some special tricks up her sleeve. Arel, however, doesn't seem to be too bothered, and replies that he has already seen almost all the tricks from his fights inside the dungeons, so he doubts this opponent would surprise him. The Loli, however, isn't so sure as she replies that this red-haired swordsman is actually a magic swordsman, who can use their magic spells to reinforce their swords with mana and extra power. This was an interesting, as Arel wouldn't have expected the city to allow the use of magic in a tournament based on being the best swordsman. Loli replies that it doesn't matter what your class is, you only need to be part of a guild in order to enter the tournament. With that, the announcer calls for Arel and Loli bids him luck. He walks up the arena and comes face to face with the red-haired girl, who straight up tells him that she is a magic swordsman and it is an accepted class. So she doesn't want to hear him and moan about how the fight was unfair because of her magic. Arel straight up tells her that he doesn't mind and the best fighter would win the match. With that, the announcer starts the match, and immediately the red-haired girl starts throwing fireballs at him. Arel pulls a matrix and dodges the attacks one by one while deflecting and slashing through the rest. The magic swords girl, however, seems to have an endless pool of mana as she continues her barrage. But Arel dodges and weaves through the attacks to get up close and personal. He immediately tries to strike her down, but the girl manages to block him while using another fireball to force him back. Arel starts getting a feel of her skills and comments that it must be pretty convenient to be able to switch from close range to long range attacks at will. She boasts about how she is gifted, and a classless loser like him could never defeat her. But Arel replies that she isn't a master of any of those two disciplines, even if she knows the basics of both. This really pisses her off, and she promises to make him eat his words as she uses her magic to imbue the fire into her blade, making it a flaming sword, claiming that only a true magic swordsman class person can wield something like this. With that, she swings her sword, causing the flame to chase after Arel, who calmly sidesteps and slashes against it. But even he is having trouble making sense of where the next attack is going to come because of her erratic movements. He acknowledges her talent, claiming that she must have practiced a good bit. But soon he stands in one place and absolutely schools her on what actual mastery looks like as he starts deflecting the flame attacks without even moving an inch from his position. He claims that even if her basic swordsmanship was better than the lowly, she could have been so much more effective and troublesome. But at this level, she is barely better than NPCs. This utterly embarrasses the girl, and as she loses her cool, Arel uses that opportunity to send a twin slash her way, which utterly extinguishes her flame, shocking her. Before she could even make sense of what just happened, he uses his blink step to appear behind her and smacks her in the head with his pommel, knocking her out. The crowd erupts with cheers as the judges announce Arel as the winner of the fourth block. But all he was thinking is how to master and apply the skills that he just saw this girl use. A few days pass by after that, and finally the day of the final tournament arrives. Loli goes back to the guild house to wake up her father as she insists him to watch the tournament with her, so they can cheer on both Arel and Ray, who both won their blocks and are in the main tournament. Her father doesn't even open his eyes and tells her to go by herself, as he doesn't really care about it. Loli tries to ragebait him, asking whether he is scared he will see Jorg there. Rod immediately gets triggered, telling her that he isn't scared of Jorg. But soon he comes back to his senses, and in a moment of vulnerability, he tells his daughter that he tried picking up his sword yesterday, and he realized that he is so rusty at this point that he might not even win the Sword God tournament. This pisses the crap out of Loli, who couldn't even qualify the prelims, let alone dream about winning Sword God tournament while calling herself rusty. She tells him that he should think about how he can still match the fighters in the finals for the tournaments, while other swordsmen who train their entire lives can't even qualify the first match. Finally, Rod agrees to go, and on the way to the stadium, he thinks about how he trained Ray when he used to have both arms instead of being a one-armed mess. He thought about those moments warmly and wondered how Ray would perform since she is his oldest student at this point and he is really connected to her. Back in the tournament, Ray seems to be losing her nerves as she shakes her legs anxiously. Looking at the ground, she gets jump scared by Arel, who asks whether she is scared that they might meet one another in the very first match. This seems to make her forget about her fears as she tries to hit him. But Arel grabs her punch just as the judges announce that the first match is going to be Jorg, the defending champion, against Arel, the classless Phenom who is surprising everyone with his lossless run till now. He gets up to leave, but Ray grabs his hand, bidding him good luck. With that, Arel moves into the arena where Loli calls out to him, telling him to kick Jorg's ass and tear it into 64 pieces. But the moment Arel spots Jorg walking out into the arena, he immediately realizes that something is wrong. Jorg's eyes have turned purple, he has grown fangs and a horn, looking like he just sold his soul to the demon. Arel's spidey senses starts tingling as he realizes that this guy could be dangerous. But Rod immediately realizes what's happening. He notices the sword Jorg is holding and warns Arel to back off, as he is holding a sword with a very powerful demon trapped inside it. Jorg's voice seems different as he speaks up, claiming that he didn't think anyone would recognize him. Loli is confused since Jorg should know who Rod is, but Rod replies that the demon itself seems to have possessed Jorg at this point, which means that Jorg is not in control of anything. Rold claims that the sword is supposed to be the original sword used by the sword god who defeated the Demon King. But before dying, the demon cursed the sword, because of which it was supposed to be locked away in the royal repository. The demon smiles, claiming that he was sealed away for hundreds of years, but he stayed patient as he knew that one day someone would come to free him and claims the power for themselves, and that's exactly what happened with Jorg. He announces to everyone in the stadium that he is the demon named Gelda, the destroyer of mankind. This brings even Ray outside, who claims that she always thought that Gelda was just a myth, a legend to scare children, the demon who became powerful enough to destroy the entire planet itself. Chaos and fear ensues as the commoners recognize his name and start running away from the stadium, causing a stampede. Gelda, however, enjoys the sound of humans screaming for their life and isn't going to let them run away so easily. So he creates a magic circle beneath him, covering the entire stadium into a dome of magical energy, capturing and locking the people inside. He laughs at the horror he is causing, claiming that the screams of humans is like music to his ears, and he is going to enjoy that while slaughtering them all. To his surprise, Arel doesn't move from his position, and in fact has his sword drawn out. Gelda tells him to run for his life, but Arel claims that he is confident that he could beat him, since he has been beaten before once, which means that he is not invincible. The demon laughs, claiming that the last time he was defeated by a sword god, and as per Jorg's memory, there is no sword god alive at this point of time. Arel retorts back that there is still a sword god alive, which is his own mother, and that he can still defeat him without being a sword god. The monster can't help but laugh, but soon his laughter stops as Arel dashes in for an attack, forcing the demon to back off before counterattacking. Arel dances away from the attacks, while the demon stands there shocked, realizing that this boy just used the divine step technique which only the sword gods use. Arel, however, doesn't stop and keeps using that technique, attacking the demon from multiple positions, but the demon simply smiles, claiming that Arel forgot that he is in the body of a sword emperor, which means that Arel's attacks aren't causing him much damage. With that, the demon jumps up and hits Arel on the shoulder, smashing him to the ground, thinking that the boy is done for. He is shocked, however, when the dust clears as Arel seems to have absorbed the attack without much damage thanks to his training with Ray. This shakes Gelda a bit, who goes in for an attack, but Arel calmly swats him away, before counter-attacking with his own infinite break attack, slashing and hacking at the demon from multiple directions, completely overwhelming him in a flurry of attacks. This triggers Gelda's PTSD, as he has no doubt that Arel is using all the attacks of a sword god. But he can't believe that a mere boy could be a swordsman of that level. Before he could come up with a plan though, Arel uses a strong slash to finish the demon off, who falls to the ground in a cloud of dust. Everyone cheers for Arel, thinking that he has defeated the demon god. But Gelda wasn't dead yet, since his actual body was still the sword and all the damage was done to Jorg's body. He quickly starts looking around for a new host and immediately jumps towards Rod. Arel manages to push Ray away from the path, while Rod jumps in front of his daughter to protect her. When the dust clears, however, Rod stands there with the demon sword in his hand and grabs Loli, putting the blade on her throat. Arel curses himself for not realizing that he needed to attack the sword, not Jorg's body, to defeat him, but it's too late now. He tells Arel that if he moves a single inch, Loli is dead, but Arel freely moves around, telling him that he can't kill Loli. Ray doesn't know why he is provoking a literal demon, but when Gelda tries to kill Loli, the hand refuses to move. Arel claims that Rod is much stronger than Jorg ever was, so possessing him wouldn't be that easy. Rod plunges the sword into the ground, freeing Loli, while Gelda tries to fight back and take control. Rod, however, is too much for him and manages to free himself from the demon's grasp, throwing the sword at Arel, who slashes it to dust, killing the demon once and for all. A couple of days pass by since that horrific incident, but it turned out to be a boon for Loli's guild. Ever since Arel won the Sword God Cup, it became common knowledge that Dragonfang is on the mission of claiming their former status as being the strongest guild in the city. Hearing this, loads of aspiring new swordsmen started registering for the guild, expecting to be trained by the Sword God Cup winner Arel himself. Unfortunately for them though, they got a teacher, much more experienced and much stricter than Arel, in the form of Rod, who got transformed after the last incident and got his confidence back. He starts training the new guild members ruthlessly with the same passion that he had before. He sparred alone against all the new recruits, beating the crap out of them, and training them till they couldn't even stand anymore. One of the new recruits ended up hiding behind a pillar, but Loli saw him and confronted him. She claimed that they only took him in their guild because he promised to give his all and train with full dedication. The recruit looks down to the ground, muttering that he never expected Rod himself will train them with his diabolical regime. He then asks Loli whether Arel would also train them soon, but the Loli lets out an exasperated sigh, claiming that Arel ended up dropping out of the guild after his victory in the Sword God Cup. She cries about how even Ray ended up following him in the hopes of stopping him, but now both of them are gone for the time being, and she has no idea when will they come back, if they ever come back. Meanwhile, Arel is already in the forest, traveling in the cart of the same adventurer who brought him to this city. The driver is surprised to see Arel leave the city of Brescia so soon, especially after winning the Sword God Cup, which basically made him a celebrity. Arel calmly replies that since he won the Sword God Cup, which is supposed to be the competition of the strongest swordsmen, that means that he has already defeated the best that Brescia had to offer, which means that he has no reason to stay here anymore. The driver is confused since there is still plenty of reason to stay in the city of swordsmen, especially if you have the title of being the strongest in the city. Arel, however, doesn't want to stagnate in a place which can't challenge him. The driver then asks why exactly is he returning back to his village, and wonders whether he was getting homesick. But Arel replies that he simply wanted to test his skills against the best and see how far he has come with his training. The driver is confused, but Arel claims that he wants to see whether he could defeat his own mother in a sparring match now. A little while later, he finally reaches his village and tries to sneak into his own house and surprise his mother, who is picking up some flowers. But his mother is too experienced and immediately senses him coming and calls his name out. Arel is surprised, but he smiles, knowing that he got caught by the words strongest fighter and not some talentless woman. His mother turns around and eyes him up and down, claiming that he seems to have gotten a decent bit of experience under his belt now. Arel replies that he managed to win the Sword God Cup, and his mother seems delighted to hear that, as she claims that now they have people in the family who won that competition. Arel smiles at that, but within the blink of an eye, his mother disappears and reappears in front of him holding a flower to his face, asking whether they smell good. Arel is shocked at this, realizing that he would have been done for if that flower was a sword, which means that he still needs much more training if he aspires to ever reach the level of his own mother in terms of swordsmanship. He smiles at her, claiming that she saw right through him and already knows the real reason why he is here. His mother smiles, claiming that she wouldn't be his mother if she couldn't understand what he wanted, just by the look in his eyes. She tells him, though, that if they sparred right here, they would definitely destroy the entire house, and propose to have their sparring session in the training ground behind the mountains. They both get ready and meet at the proposed sparring location with swords in their hands. She smiles at him, wondering how strong is her son right now. But Arel warns her not to take him lightly since he has improved a lot since the last time they met each other on the training field. His mother simply smiles and in an instant appears in front of him with her sword drawn. Arel manages to block the attack, sending sparks around the area as he tries to hold her back. She smiles at him, claiming that she doesn't want him to think that she isn't taking this seriously. But Arel tries to ignore her words, knowing that even a moment's distraction could be disastrous for him. He realizes that he was only able to block this attack since he already saw her pull the same thing in their backyard. He realizes that he needs to go on the offensive if he wants to win against her, so he sidesteps her sword before jumping up in the air and using Divine Slash and Twin Air Slices in combination at her. His mother manages to parry that easily and excitedly asks whether he used the two skills together. Arel replies that he did, and asks what kind of skill did she use to block his attacks, which confuses her as she replies that she simply swung her sword and nothing else. Arel is shocked, as he realized that his attacks are so easy to deal with that she doesn't even use any skills for that. They continue clashing against each other, causing massive shockwaves which scare the residents in the village, who wonder whether two monsters are fighting against each other in the forest. Arel continues to push on the attack as he uses aerial leaps technique to jump through the air, reaching her, but she manages to repel him as they both return back to the ground. His mother smiles at him, claiming that it might be time for her to pull all the stops out as she releases the divine strength of her sword. Arel does the same, and they both clash once again. Meanwhile, Ray also reached the village and finds it pretty deserted, so she decides to go over to Arel's place and ask whether he has returned yet. The door is answered by Arel's younger sister, who doesn't really like wenches rolling up to her doors asking about her brother. She tries to send her back and shut the door, but Arel and his mother return at that very moment, bruised and battered from the sparring match. He is surprised to see Ray in the village, and claims that he was in the forest having a sparring match with his mother. His mother seems very proud as she claims that Arel has become much stronger and even defeated her today. Arel smiles and replies that they both were evenly matched and Arel managed to defeat her purely based on strength and nothing else. Ray is still very surprised since his mother is an actual mythical sword god, but Arel replies that she would have made short work of him if she was at her prime. But even in this washed-up state when she has left training years ago, she was still the hardest opponent that he has ever faced. They soon enter the house and sit down to talk over some cake, where his mother is really interested to know about how Arel came to know this pretty young lady. Arel responds that they used to live together in the city, which brings stars in his mother's eye as she wonders whether this is the one. But Ray immediately clarifies that they were in the same guild and nothing else. With that, she remembers why she was here in the first place, and asks Arel why did he leave the guild so abruptly. Arel replies that he left a letter of resignation as well, but Ray claims that he should have at least talked to them, said goodbyes before leaving. But Arel has Asperger's or something, as he simply replies that he didn't have any competition in the city, so it was obvious that he had no options but to leave. His mother asks whether she came all the way here just because she was worried about Arel, but Ray refuses, claiming that she actually came here to become a student of hers so she can learn all the techniques that she has to offer. Arel's mother responds by asking whether she wants to learn how to become a good housewife for Arel. Before Ray could argue further though, a voice very familiar to her comes from Arel's front yard, where Evans, Ray's father, calls out to Arel's mother, claiming that they need to immediately leave for the forest, as some insanely strong monsters were there not long ago and have completely destroyed half the forest. His mother thinks quickly and claims that her and Arel actually went there already and have dealt with the monster, and it wouldn't trouble them any further. Evans is relieved to hear this and replies that he will let the village know that there is no need for an evacuation right now. It was then that he noticed his own daughter Ray, claiming that she is looking more and more like her mother every single day. He asks why she is here. But before Ray could reply, Arel's mother jumps in, claiming that Ray wants to learn how to become a good wife. Ray argues back, claiming that she just wants to be a good swordsman. But Arel's mom tells her not to worry, as she will teach him both swordsmanship and wifely duties. With that out of the way, Arel ends up going upstairs to his father's study, where he finds him busy on his desk with a bunch of magical symbols. He greets Arel, claiming that he is on the verge of a breakthrough which might become his ultimate technique. Arel isn't interested in all that though, and straight up tells him that he has finally defeated his mother, and now wants to learn magic from his father. His father congratulates him for defeating the sword god, but straight up tells him that it's impossible for him to learn magic. Back in the kitchen, his mother hands Ray a knife to teach her how to chop some veggies, but Ray has never held anything apart from a sword in her hands, so she uses it like that, breaking the entire table, shocking both the mom and Arel's little sister. A little while later, Arel and his father repair the table, and he shows off his magic by repairing a broken mug. While putting all the tools back in the shed, his father again tells him to stop trying to use magic, as it is impossible for him to do so. He explains that with swords, he could practice and try every single day and slowly get better. The broken swords in their shed is a proof of his hard work and dedication. But trying to learn magic without having a mana pool is like trying to master a sword without having any arms. It's borderline impossible. Arel turns towards his dad and asks how exactly does he know that Arel doesn't have any mana. His father replies that he would have received a class if he had any mana, but Arel replies that one day while he was training with Ray and Brestia, he ended up using all the holy water the guild had, which annoyed the lowly, who claimed that their guild is already in debt and Arel's holy water consumption is pushing them down even further. With that, she brought out a bunch of mana recovery potions instead and told him to drink that instead. Ever since he drank the potions, Arel could feel a small amount of mana moving through his body. His father is very interested to hear that and decides to try it out. He guides Arel to release a small amount of mana in the palm of his hands, and to his surprise, Arel manages to do just that, but immediately falls over unconscious. This is clear proof that Arel in fact has a small amount of mana inside him. When Arel finally wakes up, he asks his father how can he learn magic now. His father replies that his mana pool is smaller than that of a newborn baby right now, so he needs to increase it by training every single day. Training is what Arel is best at, so he buys a bunch of mana potion and gets down to training every single day, and after 6 whole months he is able to produce enough mana, which would put him in the category of complete newbies who have a very weak mana pool. His father is overjoyed though, claiming that he should go to the Magic Academy, where he himself learned all the spells from. He reveals a parchment filled with spells, telling Arel that he will need to learn them if he wants to produce any magic. With that, Arel's mind starts swimming with new possibilities about learning magic at the same place, which made his dad one of the best wizards in the country. Later that evening, they sit down together for some dinner, and Arel's mother tells them that Ray is becoming better at both housework as well as swordsmanship, which really makes her happy. While Arel's dad tells them that Arel is on the path to become a wizard now, opening endless possibilities. 3 years pass by since then, and Ray has been training every day with Arel's mom to be a better swordsman as well as a better housewife. This morning, Arel's mom gave her the task to make the morning tea, which at first stressed her out, but soon she got to it and finally served it to her with trembling hands. She waited in anticipation while Arel's mom took a sip and tasted the tea for a bit, before exclaiming that she has done a really good job, as the tea is exactly how it should be. This makes Ray happier than she expected herself to be, But soon her celebration was broken by a cry coming from upstairs, which turns out to be Arel's little sister Mira, who cries out that when she went to wake Arel up, he was nowhere to be seen and she only found a note left behind. Both Ray and Arel's mom check the note, which only had one line written by him, which mentioned that he is going to Arspel, the city of magic, for training. His mom grows a little sad, thinking about how he could have at least said goodbye, while Mira continues to cry. This makes Ray realize how her stunts when she was younger would have impacted her family when she left for the Sword City Brescia. Arel's mom immediately tells Ray that she doesn't want her to leave like that, and Ray replies that she would never do that and she still has a lot to learn from her. Arel's mom thinks about how at first her oldest daughter left the house, and now Arel has left the house all over again, wondering when she would get a chance to see them again. Meanwhile, Arel was already on the outskirts of the village, traveling with the same night-turned-Uber driver who seemed surprised to see Arel again. Arel asks how much time it would take, and the man replies that it should take roughly 2 days to reach there. They continue their conversation, when the man claims that Arel is really weird. He went to the city of Brescia and showed great feats of strength and skill, before leaving all the fame and fortune behind to return back to the village which no one even knows exists. Then he disappears from the map for a solid 3 years, and now he is going towards Arspel, the city of magic. Arel claims that he wants to try his luck in the examination and see how he fares against other people. Suddenly, a young red-haired boy asks Arel whether he is also going to the Magical Academy entrance exam, which he finds weird since Arel is so much older than a normal entrance examinee. Before Arel could reply, a blue-haired girl snaps at the red-haired boy, telling him not to make fun of people as it is obvious that Arel has been failing the exam for several years. Before Arel could tell them that this is the first time he is going to that city, the blue-haired girl tells him that it's really admirable to see weak people trying to overcome their weaknesses. Both the red-haired boy and the blue girl start butting heads against each other, while the green girl tries to settle them down, but fails at it. The red boy turns around towards Arel once again and asks what magic he specializes in, and claims that he uses red magic. Arel starts thinking about the time his father taught him about all the different kinds of magic affinities. Black being dark magic, white meaning light magic, yellow meaning earth magic, green meaning wind magic, blue meaning water magic, and finally red meaning fire magic. But since Arel did not have any innate affinities, his father decided to try his hands on all the possible magic that he could learn. He snaps back to reality and tells the red boy that he doesn't really know what magic he could use, since he doesn't have any class. The boy is surprised by it, but the blue girl calls him a loser, claiming that Arel is obviously making fun of him, since no classless person could ever even dream of attending the Magic Academy exams. The red boy turns around furious, telling Arel to quit making fun of him, but Arel tells him that he wasn't trying to and proves it with his class card, which shows everyone that he indeed is a classless person. The young kids are shocked by it and claim that he would never be able to qualify the exams. But before Arel could say anything, a huge roar comes out of the forest, shaking the trees around them. Arel immediately recognizes the sound and claims that it must be a troll king, who woke up from his deep sleep. The boy immediately starts panicking, claiming that they must run away as the troll king is insanely strong, and the blue girl urges the Uber driver to move quick. The driver turns around horrified and tells them that because of the roar, his horses have fainted out of fear. The girl realizes that there is no way out of this and they must stand their ground and fight. So she starts hatching a plan and tells the red boy and the green girl that a troll is a troll at the end of the day, and they can simply work together to take down the slow beast. Their plans turn to ashes, however, when finally the Troll King emerges from the forest with a massive club in his hand. Red tries to calm the girls down, telling them that the troll is huge, but they need to stay calm and try to take it down. Before they could even do anything, they are jump scared when the troll is slammed away into the air by a massive club as an even bigger troll emerges from the forest. The girls drop to their knees trembling and holding each other, realizing that their magic would be no match for the beast. But the red boy maintains his composure as he can't get scared in front of the Huds, so he jumps out of the cab and tries to calm himself down before taking out his magic wand and with all his mana, sends a fireball at the troll, hitting him square in the face. For a moment, they thought they had a chance, but when the smoke clears, the troll comes out completely unhurt and more angry than ever. The boy used all his mana for that attack, so he doesn't have any mana remaining to try and escape. The troll starts charging at the boy when suddenly a huge explosion covers the entire area and turns the troll into ashes. They are all surprised, but Arel comes out from behind, claiming that he should have maybe held back a little. The boy is shocked at this, and even the girls talk amongst each other about the fact that explosion magic is a very advanced form of magic, which only the mages use, and that too the strong ones. Arel doesn't pay them any mind and goes over to the horses, immediately using his healing spell to heal them back up. By the time he turns around, he finds the red boy on his knees begging for forgiveness, and asks him to become his master as he wishes to become a great wizard one day. Arel tries to tell them that they have got it all wrong, and he is no master and merely an examinee. He also shows them the class card again. But the green girl comments that he must be a very great mage, and to hide his identity he is using a fake card. Unable to solve the misunderstanding, he decides to continue on his way towards the city of Arspel, and after a couple of days they reach it early morning. The city is situated between a lake with drawbridges on all sides to let people in and out. The girls watch in shock as the cocky and confident red boy acts like a tamed puppy as he circles Arel, asking him all sorts of things. Once inside, the boy tells Arel that he must be giving the exam for the red magic, which means that Arel and him will be together, while the green and blue girl are going to give the exam for earth and water magic. This is where Arel learns that the course and the tests are divided on the basis of the magical affinities, and wishes that they don't outright reject him just like they did in Brescia because he was classless. To his surprise though, when he reaches the reception desk, the receptionist smiles and puts a stamp on his card and gives him his roll number. Arel asks whether it's fine even if he is a classless person, and the receptionist responds by saying that every single person has an equal right to attend the exam and no one will be discriminated against. He realizes that this place is really different from Brescia and then moves towards the testing ground. There he sees a bunch of kids lined up together, while one of them fires a small fireball at a metal knight and passes the test. Before he could understand what exactly he will have to do though, a young flashy boy with red hair enters the testing arena and asks the instructor whether it's fine if he destroys one of his metallic dolls. The instructor was confused at first, but then he checks his card and realizes that the boy is an advanced magic user, which is a very rare class to get. All the boys are shocked and watch the boy as he walks up and uses his spell to create a pillar of flame which completely engulfs the metallic knight. The boy looks proud of what he did, but the red boy ends up claiming that his Arel could do better. The cocky boy immediately takes offense and turns towards him, asking whether he thinks a mere man could do better than an advanced magic user, and the red boy defiantly replies that his Arel could eat him for breakfast and him out before lunch. The cocky boy claims that these are idle threats and no one could match him and melt metal like he did. Arel finally interrupts, pointing out that the knight hasn't melted even a little bit. The instructor points out that the knights are made out of mithril, which is one of the strongest metals in the world and wouldn't break so easily. The red boy again starts making fun of the cocky brat, dragging Arel in by claiming that he would do leagues better. Arel smacks him in the head before heading out into the arena. He decides to use the same skill as the cocky brat, which already surprises them all, but the explosion was nowhere near as flashy, and it was just a tiny little fire column, which didn't seem to do any damage. The cocky boy starts laughing, but his laughter soon ends when the mithril knight completely melts into a jumble of molten metal. The boy is shocked and claims that eruption magic could never melt mithril. But Arel replies that he used a modified version of that magic where he concentrated all the fire into a single tiny column, creating an intense heat unrivaled by any other eruption magic. With that, he simply moves out of that arena and enters into the blue magic arena where the blue girl manages to hit the target and passes. She is shocked to see Arel there, but Arel doesn't take any time and uses an ice edge attack, again breaking the knight before moving towards the green magic arena, leaving the instructor and the students utterly shaken. Just outside the arena though, he spots the green girl, who replies that she hasn't even registered yet because she is very scared. He gives her a pep talk and manages to get her confidence up, walking her through the registration and then moving towards the arena. This test was very simple, as they just had to produce a basic wind spell and move the windmill in front of them. In classic overkill fashion though, Arel produces a tornado, which completely destroys the windmill into tiny little pieces, shocking the instructor. The green girl was next, and was getting psyched out once again, but Arel gives her another motivational talk and pushes her towards the arena, which she passes as well. With that also cleared, he easily aces both the light magic school and the yellow magic school before moving towards the dark magic school. This school looks abandoned from outside with not a single soul around when he suddenly hears a weird noise coming from a box. He was about to inspect it when suddenly he hears a woman crying out that she has lost her pet and asks Arel whether he has seen it anywhere. Arel doesn't know what to say and claims that something is in the box, and the woman immediately starts searching through it and taking a weird toad-looking abomination out of it. The woman seems happy now and turns towards Arel, claiming that she created the chimera herself, and asks whether it is cute. Arel could do nothing but smile when suddenly he is jump-scared by a skeleton from behind. His instincts kick in, and he beheads the skeleton with a single swing of his wand. The skeleton rushes to get the head back, while Arel asks whether she is an undead monster. The skeleton claims that she is a beautiful office clerk here and introduces herself as Lotta. Arel asks where he could find the examination hall, and Lotta informs him that the dark magic school is open for anyone since they never get many students here. With that, he managed to get into all 6 schools. After completing his registration, he walks out where the red boy and the blue-green girl surround him, and they start arguing about how Arel would be in their school since he attended their exam. But Arel shocks them by revealing that he cleared all 6 exams and is going to learn every single magical affinity from now on. The 3 kids wonder how Arel could get a student ID from all the schools, and he thinks that probably the schools don't talk to each other regarding students, which creates situations like these. Now that Arel has aced the exams and the paperwork is also done, there is one problem in his way. He is a bit worried about the class schedules overlapping, and the red boy Kaido shouts that he already warned him about it. Arel replies that since each course needs only 20% attendance, he can manage that somehow, and if he scores well in the final exam, even his teachers won't have any problem. The green girl Colette tells him that he won't be able to score well in exams if he doesn't take notes in the class because their teachers give out the most recent information in their lectures. Arel asks if he can borrow notes from them in that case, and everyone is happy to share their notes with him. They ask him what will he do about the other 3 schools, and Arel tells them that the Black Magic School doesn't have a fixed course schedule and most of the students learn through self-study. Now only the yellow and white schools are left, and Arel thinks that if he focuses more on them, he can pass the exams of all 6 schools. While Kaido is fully supportive of Arel's ambitions, the blue-green girl Kyufa pulls Colette aside and asks if Arel can really pull this insane stunt off, as most students can't even manage 2 schools at once, and she doesn't think so. Anyway, Arel decides to go to the red school with Kaido first, where the arrogant brat from their examination is also present. He gets alarmed when he sees Arel and confronts him, but Arel doesn't even pay him any attention. This makes the brat Royce really annoyed, and he declares that what happened in the exam was a fluke because a mage like him can never be defeated by a mere spellcaster. Arel tells him that he is not a spellcaster, but Royce interprets his sentence otherwise. He thinks that Arel is a mage like him, but he shoots down that theory immediately. This shocks Royce, who imagines Arel as an archmage, but to his shock, Arel denies that allegation too. Before the conversation could continue, the teacher arrives there and Royce immediately asks him about Arel's class. The teacher checks the register and reveals that Arel is classless, which makes the blonde brat doubt his whole existence. With that, the teacher starts the lecture and Kaido has a hard time understanding the magic script that has become even more complicated than he last remembered. However, for Arel, it is just basic level stuff, and he wonders why they are even being taught it here. The teacher answers that question by saying that most students here will not have yet learned the grammar for the magic script, and that is the most important part to cast spells efficiently. He talks about the benefits of mastering magic script and then adds that once the students have reached an advanced level, they can rearrange magic spells to make them even more powerful. Kaido remarks that it is the same thing that Arel did, and he is shocked to hear that it is a high-level technique because he has seen his dad play around with spells for as long as he can remember. Soon after that, Arel goes to the green school and tells Colette that none of the classes till now have taught him anything new. However, he has hopes from the green school because the first thing they are going to learn is flight magic. Colette is surprised to hear this because she thought someone as skilled Arel would have already learned how to fly, and he replies that his dad is terrified of heights, so flight magic was the only thing he couldn't teach him. The teacher starts the class by telling everyone to imagine themselves riding an upward current of air and keep their balance by spreading their arms. Arel realizes that the teacher is assuming all the students already have the flight skill, and he is completely clueless about what he should do in this case. Colette, on the other hand, starts floating in the air, but in her excitement, she loses her balance and falls on the ground. The other students make fun of her embarrassing fall, but she casually shakes it off because she is not going to let haters kill her vibe. She resumes practicing again, and Arel is inspired by her confidence. He still can't imagine an upward air current lifting him up, so he decides to create a tornado at his feet to propel him upward. The tornado flings him high up in the air, and he crash lands on the ground, creating a crater beneath him. Colette is shocked to see that and helps him back on his feet when an arrogant boy with green hair arrives there and mocks them for being losers. He decides to show them how it is done and effortlessly rises up in the air before showing everyone how gracefully he flies. Colette is really impressed by his skill, and the boy replies that he has practiced only flight magic till today, and he has won every race he has ever participated in. Arel asks what race is he talking about, and Colette informs him that people race each other on a set course using flight magic. Arel is interested in the race, and he declares that he will also take part in it. The arrogant boy says that he doesn't even know how to fly yet, and Arel replies that he will learn it with practice. The boy asks the teacher about the next race, which is in 2 months, and then tells Arel that he doesn't have enough time to practice because it usually takes people at least 6 months to learn to fly properly. He takes off with that, and Colette tells Arel that he can take part in the race next year, but he has already started planning how to win the race in 2 months. A couple days later, Kaido, Kyufa, and Colette go to the school at night because Colette forgot something there. Kaido asks the girls why did they have to call him along, because they could just do this by themselves. Kyufa replies that if he has heard the ongoing rumors, he should know that they need extra protection. However, Kaido hasn't heard any rumors, and Kyufa asks if he lives under a rock. She tells him that recently, students have spotted a ghost flying around the school at night, and Kaido freaks out on hearing that because he is scared of the supernatural. Kyufa starts teasing him about that, so he begins yelling at her. While Colette tries to pacify both of them, a shady figure comes flying towards the window. Kyufa and Kaido panic on seeing him, but the mysterious man opens the window and shuts Colette's mouth so that she doesn't make a sound. Everyone is terrified at this, but Kaido is ready to attack the hooded man if he doesn't let go of his friend. However, it turns out to be Arel, who was just practicing his flight magic. His friends are shocked to realize that Arel was the rumored ghost. They tell him that he should give his body some rest at night, but Arel replies that he gets plenty of sleep. He was asleep just now right before he reached the window, and his friends don't understand what he means by that. Arel explains that he has trained his body to practice spells even when he is asleep, because not doing anything while he is resting is a waste of time for him. His friends find it hard to believe that he can do that, and even though they tell him to stop doing crazy things like this, they are motivated to try harder because of him. With that, Kaido and others head back to their dorms, but since Arel is wide awake now, he decides to use his time productively. He immediately goes to the black magic school, and Lotta is really happy to see him. Arel tells her that he is here to get permission to enter the library, and Lotta asks what kind of books he wants to read. He replies that he reads all the books he can find because they have a lot of valuable information, and Lotta is surprised at that because most people are creeped out just at the mention of black magic books. The next day in the red school class, Arel points out a mistake that the teacher made in writing a spell formula. Kaido is impressed by this, but Arel tells him that since he can't use skills, he has to memorize all the spells. Since some of them are too long, he has shortened them down significantly so that they are easier to remember. The teacher hears this too, and he is curious to see how Arel shortens the spells. He invites him to the blackboard to show it to the class, and Arel shortens the spell he is teaching by almost half. Baldy is impressed by this and says that theoretically, the spell should produce the same output, but there are no safeguards in it. He says that the spell may explode if the caster can't control his mana perfectly, and Arel replies that the divine protection will save him from taking lethal damage, and he is fine with pain from the explosion. Baldy is thoroughly impressed by this, and he asks Arel if he would like to take a promotion exam to move to the 2nd grade. Royce also volunteers to take the test, and Baldy has no problem letting him participate in it. He leads both the boys to the test zone, which is a narrow corridor with a monster cage at the end. He tells Arel and Royce that once they are in the corridor, a monster will be released from the cage, and if they can defeat it without letting it get close, they will pass the exam. Despite being nervous, Royce volunteers to go first. However, as he sees that he is going to face a minotaur, he panics a little. The minotaur dashes towards him at full speed, and Royce casts the eruption spell at it. However, the spell misses its mark, and Royce begins panicking as the minotaur gets closer. He keeps spamming the same skill, and Arel notices that he has grown stronger since the entrance exam. Baldy agrees with him, but remarks that the spell he is using is not suitable to attack moving targets. Soon, the minotaur reaches close enough to attack Royce, but just as it is about to reach him, the monster vanishes. Royce is surprised by this, but Baldy is having the time of his life, freaking out the overconfident brat. As Royce climbs out, He is really disappointed in himself, but the teacher tells him that he performed quite well for his class. He says that students usually have to study for 2 years before attempting the promotion exam, and Royce realizes that Baldy let him take the exam to make him aware of his level. He finally realizes that he is worse than everyone in the 2nd grade, and he decides to keep working hard humbly. The teacher is pleased that his methods worked, and then he turns to Arel, telling him that it is his turn next. He asks him to get in the next lane where he will face a Minotaur too. However, the moment the gates are opened, Arel thinks that Baldy is playing some kind of prank on him because his opponent doesn't look like a normal Minotaur. Even Baldy is confused by this when another mage comes running there, telling him that because of a mix-up, Arel's lane has a superior Minotaur instead of a normal one. She urges Baldy to stop the test immediately, but Arel has already started his prep work. He creates 2 flame spears and shoots them at the monster's legs, but it jumps over them easily. Baldy thinks that even Arel isn't strong enough to face a superior Minotaur, and he tells him to get out immediately because the teleportation trap might not be able to stop the monster. Arel tells him that he can defeat it, but Baldy tells him that the monster will dodge all the attacks. Arel says that it can only dodge the attacks it can see, and just then, his flame spears change their direction. They hit the superior Moor's legs from behind, causing it to fall on the ground. Arel then finishes it off by using the eruption spell, not leaving any trace of the monster behind. Baldy can't believe this because superior Minotaurs are used in the promotion exams for the elite students in the 2nd grade, and Arel showed enough skill to keep up with them. He thinks that someone as talented as him can't be classless, and begins thinking that something went wrong with his assessment. Just then, Arel climbs out of the test area and asks the teacher if he passed. Baldy tells him that he aced the test and starting tomorrow, he can attend the 2nd grade class instead. Later that day, Kaido proudly boasts about Arel's achievements to the girls who ask him why is he acting so proud about it. Kaido replies that Arel is his mentor, so he should act proud of his strength. However, Arel is a bit disappointed because he is not satisfied by taking the promotion exam in just one school. He wants to take the exam in all schools so that he can move to the 2nd grade in all of them. And even though his friends are shocked on hearing this, they know that this is what they should expect from Arel. The next morning, Arel wastes no time catching up to the blue class teacher, and asks her to let him take a promotion exam so he can ascend to the next grade. But the teacher isn't sure of his abilities, and tells him that those exams happen only once a year, and when they happen, he is welcome to apply and test himself. Arel wouldn't let her go so easy though, and claims that he knows about the teacher's recommendation system, and if she recommends him, he can take an exam right now. The blue teacher agrees that it is indeed a rule, but they only use that for exceptional students who are 1 in a million in terms of their abilities. Arel tells her to see his magic once then and decide for herself. The teacher turns around with a sigh, telling him that if he starts attending the classes regularly, then she will have a look at his magic and gauge whether he is worthy for a promotion. Arel makes a face, claiming that attending these stupid classes is the worst thing he could do right now. This really pisses the teacher off, and she starts screaming at him, asking whether he thinks her class is useless. He replies that her class might be useful for students who are learning basic magic, but for him, they are boring and repetitive. The blue teacher's face turns red as she gets triggered even more, telling Arel that she will decide whether his magic is basic or not. Arel's rage bait turns out to be successful as he lets out a sigh of relief, happy that he can finally get to learn more advanced magic after his exam. The instructor takes Arel to an arena while Call watches from above, wondering why would Arel piss Hengel, the blue school teacher, as she is just one step away from becoming an archmage, which is a supreme class for any mage. Arel, however, isn't bothered by that at all, as he stands defiant in the arena. Hengel tells him that the rules are simple. No physical attacks are allowed, and if he wins the mock battle, she will let him take the promotion exam. Arel simply nods, claiming that he thinks he has a good chance of securing victory. This really triggers the instructor as she wonders how overconfident a guy can be in face of a borderline archmage. She decides to settle it all in the arena itself, and as soon as the battle starts, she uses a terrifying ice storm spell which creates an icy vortex around Arel. The winds are so chilly that it's hard even for Kufa sitting above to breathe without choking. She wishes to God that Arel survives that, but when the winds die down, she notices that Arel has completely turned into ice in the process. Hengel smiles, claiming that just like everyone else, even Arel seems to be all bark and no bite. She turns her attention towards Kufa and tells her that whenever she is in a mock battle, She should start with a strong spell to try and catch the opponent off guard and to end the fight as soon as possible. Before she could celebrate her victory though, the ice starts chipping as Arel punches through it. Hengel realizes that Arel was quick enough with his magic incantations that he was able to create ice shields around him, which protected him from the worst of her attack. She commends him for being quick on his feet, but claims that it won't be enough to help him win. Arel claims that they will never know unless he tries it, and with that, he produces ice shards. Hengel doesn't seem impressed, claiming that ice shards are the most basic magic a beginner learns. But Kufa is shocked as Arel doubles the amount of ice shard he already produced while she can only produce 2 at max. Hengel smiles, claiming that it's not bad for a new student, but it is nowhere near strong enough to cause her any issues. Instead of defending with an ice wall, she decides to match his attacks as she uses her own ice shards. The ice shards explode mid-air, colliding with each other. And Arel realizes that he should have expected this from an instructor, and maybe he was taking her too lightly. Hengel suddenly realizes that Arel is the student who scored the best in the entrance exam, and knows that ice shards are probably his go-to spell. But she claims that it won't work on her, since it's her main spell as well. Arel doesn't budge though, claiming that he will never know unless he tests it out. With that, he gets ready for another volley of ice shards, but this time he doubles that. Hengel smiles and matches with the same number of shards, claiming that she can create hundreds of these whenever she wants. Kufa can't believe the level at which these two people are fighting at each other. But Arel is not done yet. He suddenly produces 100 ice shards to Hengel's right, then left and even behind her, completely surrounding her. This catches her off guard, as she realizes that multiplying ice shards is easy enough, but changing their direction requires a complex spell casting. She immediately realizes that her shards can't protect her from these and uses Ice Wall to protect herself from the barrage. She is confused by the fact that Arel's ice shards feel just as strong as they were before, even though their power should reduce the more he multiplies them. She plays a trick though. She knows that Arel can't break through her ice wall, so she preserves her mana waiting for one final strong attack to finish Arel when his mana stores are depleted. Before she could think of her final spell though, Arel decides to use his final spell instead. Hengel is confused as she is sure that Arel can't break through his thick ice walls, and he shouldn't have enough mana. But Arel planned it all, since now she is trapped in her own walls, and he uses a huge ice spear above her before striking it towards her. Hengel panics and uses her ice shield, but it's not strong enough to block the spear completely, and the spear breaks through the shield, hitting Hengel with a bang. Arel lets out a sigh of relief, claiming that defeating her was really tough, while Kufa is shocked, realizing that a student just beat a teacher of the academy. After that, he meets with all 3 of them outside, where Kufa tells the other 2 that Hengel decided to promote Arel without taking the promotion exam. Kaito cheers for him, but Arel is not done yet. He immediately sets his eyes on Khalid and the Green School next. Colette accompanies him to meet up with the teacher for the Green School, and Arel asks her permission to take the promotion exam. She denies it, claiming that he can try his luck when they happen. Arel complains that if she gives him the recommendation he can take the promotion exams, and asks whether she wants to see his magic. The teacher doesn't back down though, claiming that other schools may have their rules, but they have their own, where they don't allow anyone to take the promotion exam out of the schedule. Arel complains that there must be some way to get the promotion exams done before time, and the teacher replies out of frustration that only the headmaster can allow him to take the exams. Arel immediately starts thinking about how to approach the headmaster, but the teacher tells him not to even consider it, as the headmaster is a very busy person, and if he wastes their time, it could lead to his expulsion from the school. Arel realizes that he can't take those chances, but Khalid suddenly tells him that there is another way to meet the headmaster. She claims that the flight race is coming really soon, and every year the winner gets personally awarded by the headmaster. Arel thinks that it's a wonderful plan, since that way he could show the headmaster his skills as well and ask for a promotion. The green teacher smiles, claiming that he is thinking ahead of himself, since the race is going to have over 300 participants and winning wouldn't be so easy. But Arel claims that he will win the race no matter what. Finally, the race day arrives and all the participants get in line as the commentator introduces the headmaster of the school, who greets all of them and tells them to have a clean game without getting hurt. Before the match could start, the green-haired boy from earlier walks up to Arel again, asking whether he is here to make a clown of himself. But Arel doesn't even recognize him. This pisses the brat off, who claims that he is Sky and he is going to become the fastest mage in the world. With that, the match finally starts and the racers take to the air, colliding into each other and falling, while the better ones rise above the rest and start making their way through the course. One of the participants flies like a rocket, but has no control over it, so he smashes into the walls and gets disqualified. 15 out of all the participants are leading the pack, with most of the familiar faces from the senior batches. But one of the professors realized that there are 2 new faces in the mix, and both from their first year. They turn out to be Arel and Sky. Sky is shocked to see that Arel is able to keep up with them. But Arel replies that everyone is moving very slowly right now. Sky seems confused, but Arel tells him that it's a long race, and if they go full tilt from the start, they will slow down at the end and will have no energy to finish. They continue moving at a steady pace when they arrive at the first tricky turn, where they have to maneuver through a narrow gatehouse and then take a sharp left. Some of the racers go ahead, but are unable to make the turns, which results in them falling into the waters, while Sky uses his own strategy by being in the middle of the pack, which gives him the optimal position to take a successful turn. After turning, he smiles to himself, thinking that Arel is probably lost by now. But to his surprise, Arel is managing to stay right there with him, soon the leader of the pack. Dione, who is also the winner off the previous 4-year races, pulls ahead of the rest. But to their surprise, both Arel and Sky, who are supposed to be rookies in their first year, manage to keep at Dione's heels. Even Dione seems a little shocked that 2 first years could keep up with the fastest person in the 4th year. Sky starts struggling with the speed, but refuses to back down and pushes forward. But Dione reveals that she was still not going full speed. She takes it up a notch and pulls ahead, while Sky slowly starts running out of gas, sweating as he tries very hard to stay in the race, but it's of no use as he completely runs out of mana. The Yellow School professor commends Sky's efforts, claiming that he can do great things if he keeps working on himself. But to their surprise, Arel is still close behind Dione. She is surprised to see that someone can still follow her at this pace, so she decides to take it up a notch and speeds up. Arel realizes that his 2 months of training is not enough to beat this girl, so he decides to take out his trump card. He starts using magic to create pockets of air beneath his feet and starts jumping from them, which gives him enough boost to maintain his speed with that of Dione. The commentator is confused as he doesn't understand what's happening. But the light magic instructor has sharp instincts, and he explains the magic that Arel is using, but claims that to be able to generate enough lift from that, someone would need the leg strength of a supreme class swordsman, which is what's confusing him. They don't know yet that Arel never misses leg day as he continues to give Dione a tough competition. But the light magic instructor claims that they must slow down soon as they are at the home stretch, and would have to make a sharp turn once again in order to rush towards the final line. But at these speeds, they won't be able to do that and might crash. Dione knows very well that they need to slow down, but she also knows that the first to slow down would be at a disadvantage. She continues her speed for as long as she could, but then decides to slow down as there is no way she could make the turn otherwise. Arel, however, doesn't really care and rushes to the corner and punches the air pocket to make the sharp turn instead. With that, he manages to clear the finish line at the first position, winning the race while Dione comes in second. Instead of being a salty loser though, she shakes Arel's hands, congratulating him on the victory and wishing him best of luck for the future. After a while, Sky also reaches the finish line at the 3rd position, but is too spent to say anything and simply collapses on the ground. A little while later, the headmaster presents Arel with his medal and his certificate, and Arel seizes the opportunity to ask the headmaster for a promotion to the 2nd grade. The headmaster smiles, claiming that he has shown that he is an exemplary student and is free to be promoted to the 2nd grade. With that, Arel completes the promotion in green, red, and blue schools, which means that only 3 more schools are remaining. After securing the promotions from the green, red, and the blue school, Arel turns his eye towards the earth school as his next step. He goes into the department and straight to the reception, where he immediately asks the receptionist, "What's the quickest way of getting a promotion?" She thinks for a moment before replying that participating in the annual assembly and showcasing your skills would be the first step to do that. Arel's eyes light up as he tells the receptionist to sign him up for that. But the receptionist informs him that unfortunately, that ship has sailed and the assembly registrations are over. Arel can't believe his ears and starts asking all sorts of questions, trying to find a way out of this problem, as without his promotion, he would have to attend pointless classes for absolutely no reason. He continues haggling with the receptionist, who tells him firmly to piss off as she has no way of admitting him. He begs her for a chance, promising that he is ready to do anything in order to get into the assembly. Just then, a tall teacher calls him out from behind and asks why does he want to attend the assembly so bad. Arel responds that he wants to get a promotion, which makes the teacher laughs, and he replies that he can attend the assembly if he becomes his research assistant. Arel's eyes light up and he immediately accepts the position, before turning toward the receptionist who shook her head in dismay, asking Arel whether he has the faintest idea what he just put himself into. Arel is confused and asks more about it, so the receptionist reveals that the man was Professor Rog, who is absolute best at controlling golems and loves to present it during the assemblies. But unlike other professors, he likes to perform battles with his golems as well. Arel doesn't really find anything wrong with that, but the receptionist reveals that the opponents of the golems are not other golems, but actually the students who decide to become his research assistant. That's when Arel realizes that he just got played to become cannon fodder, and the receptionist asks whether he still wants to register for the assembly. To her surprise, instead of backing down, Arel doubled down on his decision, claiming that he doesn't care whether he has to face a golem. If that's the only way to get into the assembly, he is willing to take his chances. The receptionist is shocked at this, but has no other options other than letting him register. A couple days later, finally the assembly day arrives and everyone gets ready to present their skills through their earth-bending magic. Some of them create beautiful swans, some create scenes from a storybook, while some idiot decides to build a sand castle. Finally, Professor Rog's turn arrives and a silence falls over the crowd as they wonder who is going to be his newest victim. Kufa overhears the audience talking about how Professor Rog tortures students every single year in the assembly, and this time he seems to have found a freshman. Kufa is terrified after hearing this and prays for Arel to be safe and sound. Professor Rog immediately creates 3 battle golems in the blink of an eye, which impresses the audience. Kaido notices that these golems look different than the one they have seen in their villages, and Khalid replies that it's because these are battle golems, not the usual one. Rog then turns towards Arel and tells him to pull out his golems so that the battle can begin. To his surprise, Arel calls out his golem named Alpha, but unlike Rog's golem that look like they are made up of mud and dirt, Alpha looks more like a Power Ranger. The people in the audience are excited to see this, as there are no rules stating that golems must be made out of mud. Arel explains that he has created the golem with the help of materials that he found throughout his journey, and combined them through alchemy to produce a good armor, after which he used earth magic to control his creation, so it should be a completely valid golem. Rog simply laughs at that, telling Arel to stop joking around, as there is no way he could control such a heavy frame with earth magic, and there must be a human hiding inside the armor. With that, he pulls off the helm, only to find darkness staring back at him. Arel puts the helm back, while Rog claims that the metal-looking parts are too light to have any sturdiness, and claims that even though it's clear that Arel has put a lot of effort in this, his creation wouldn't be able to survive a single hit from Rog's golem. Arel tells him to shut his trap and bring it on. Rog immediately tells his golem to attack and destroy anything that came in its path. Immediately, one of the earth golems jumps into action and rushes straight towards Alpha with an incredible speed before aiming a punch straight at its head, hoping to end the fight in a single blow. Alpha, however, simply catches his punch in his hands without even moving from his position. This alone was enough for Rog's golem to crumble into little pieces as if it was a pottery monster. Rog can't believe his eyes, as his golems are the strongest in the entire academy, and there is no way that Arel's flimsy-ass metallic thing could defeat his solidly built monster. He quickly chalks that off to luck and tells Arel that now he is going to get serious. He uses his magic to repair the damage done on the first golem before reinforcing all his golems to their maximum toughness. With that, he orders all of his golems to attack at once, laughing as he claims that his strongest trait is his huge mana reserve, with which he is able to control multiple golems at once. And now, with all 4 golems attacking at once, Arel will have no idea which attack to defend against, granting a guaranteed victory. Arel doesn't back down so easily though, and decides that the best way to deal with multiple attackers is to bring a sword to a fist fight. He immediately creates 2 swords for the golem, which Alpha grabs and gets ready for the attack. Rog is still confident that even weapons won't be able to save his ass, but to his shock and horror, Alpha manages to shatter all 4 golems at once with a single slash of his swords, completely destroying not only the golems, but Rog's hopes, dreams, and his confidence. Rog claims that there is no way for a golem to move so quickly with the grace of a swordsman and use such complicated movements with a weapon. Arel claims that usually he would be correct if they were talking about a normal golem, but his golem is built different. He claims that the golem's light armor gives him swiftness, and the joints being flexible provides it with dexterity and easy movements. With some basic alchemy, they can optimize the armor to be as light as possible, which would mean that their earth magic would be twice as strong and consume less mana than usual. Rog realizes that Arel is making sense, claiming that theoretically Arel isn't wrong, but he never tried it out to check for himself. Arel helps Rog up from the ground and asks whether he will now be eligible for a promotion, but Rog claims that assistants are not eligible for promotion examinations. Arel was about to beat the out of this man when Rog adds that if he joins his golem laboratory, he will personally go and talk to the headmaster for allowing him to skip a grade. Arel is not really enthusiastic, but agrees to do that if that's the only way to move up. Next in his agenda was to pass the Light Magic School promotion examination. Thankfully, he gets the opportunity to directly appear for the examinations there and meets up with a cute teacher who is legally blind, but is able to see the mana of all the living things around her. She gets surprised to see Arel with his endless reserve of mana, and that's not it. She is shocked to see that there is magic of different affinities dwelling inside of him, which should be technically impossible, but somehow he is managing to keep them all in an equilibrium state. She decides to ignore it for now and takes him to the examination site, which is out on the outskirts. She claims that they need to go down into the dungeon for the promotion exam, and while going down, she tells him to be careful as this was a burial site, which means that undead monsters can appear from anywhere. Arel quickly gets out his light magic to give him some light, and the teacher warns him to be careful as undead monsters would immediately flock towards him in order to extinguish any light magic. He tells her not to worry, and as soon as undead skeletons arrive near him, he simply uses his holy ray magic to decimate them. One after the other, he continues blasting the monsters, killing each and every one of them without fail. The blind woman is surprised to see the strength of his spells and warns him to conserve his mana, otherwise he would run out of it before they can get out of this place. Arel tells her not to worry as he has only used 1% of his mana and asks when they will arrive at the examination arena. The blind woman sighs and claims that the exam in itself was defeating the monsters they would face while coming down here, and he has already passed. Arel is surprised that the exam was so easy, but he is not one to complain, so they start making their way back up. Suddenly, Arel senses something and uses his light magic behind him, revealing an undead monster which is clearly the boss here since he is wearing better clothes. The blind woman is surprised as only advanced class undead skeletons can hide their aura, and no advanced level monster should be here on this floor of the dungeon. The skeleton was about to give his villainous monologue, but Arel doesn't have that much time and spams the Holy Ray spell on him. That irritates the monster, but he claims that stupid low-class spells like that won't work on him. Arel agrees with him and pulls out an advanced class spell named the Holy Cross and uses it on the monster, completely obliterating him with a single move. While moving up, the blind woman explains to Arel that the monster he just defeated was an advanced class skeleton, but Arel claims that he was not much stronger than the usual skeletons, and the only thing different about him was the fact that he could talk. The blind woman sighs and tells Arel that he has passed the promotion exam and will be promoted to the next grade. With that, Arel moves on to the next dark magic school, only to realize that they don't organize any promotion examinations. Annoyed, he sits down to study when Lotta decides to annoy him and gets smacked in the head. She claims that they used to have a promotional exam system as well, but since they don't really get many students, the system has completely fallen apart. Arel lets out a sigh of annoyance when he notices a heavy wooden gate inscribed with spells on it. He asks what the room is supposed to be, and Lotta explains that unlike other magic spells, dark magic saps the life force out of people, so they try out their stronger spells inside that chamber to make sure no one gets harmed in the process. This seemingly excites Arel, who decides to take one of the oldest grimoire he saw in the library and heads off into the room to try out some spells. The book has no name on it and not even any information about the author. The moment he opens the book, an intense wave of mana flows out of it and disappears. Arel immediately realizes that something strong and ominous just escaped the book, and his hunch was correct as he spots a demon floating in the air. The demon claims that he was trapped in that book for an eternity, but finally Arel opened the book, which released him from his bounds. He decides to thank Arel by making him his first victim and drinking his blood. Arel, however, immediately defends the attack by blocking it with his wand. He tells the demon that it wouldn't be very easy to escape this place and tries to hit him with a fireball spell, but to his surprise, nothing comes out of the wand. The demon laughs and points down to a magic circle which he created, forcing Arel into an anti-magic barrier field. He laughs at Arel, claiming that now Arel can't do anything, but Arel decides to simply slap the shit out of the demon instead. The demon laughs as he knows spellcasters are terrible at hand-to-hand combat, but before he could even blink, he gets decapitated by Arel. This really shocks him as he can't believe that a mage just cut his head off with a wand, no less. He reattaches his head and tells Arel that even if he is a magical swordsman, he won't be able to defeat him. But Arel proudly exclaims that he is a classless person, and with that, starts attacking the demon relentlessly. At first, the demon simply laughs that he has an endless mana reserve, but soon his mana starts depleting and he starts growing smaller and smaller, while Arel continues his assault. Finally, he becomes the size of a rat and starts begging Arel to stop, as otherwise he would disappear entirely. Arel decides to stop, but uses a servitude seal to make the demon his slave. This would get him cancelled today, but back then it was okay. The demon doesn't like it very much, but every time he complains, he gets burned by a flame magic due to his servitude seal. Lotta enters the room after hearing the commotion and is shocked to see that Arel has captured a demon. He names the demon Maddie and shows it off to his gang of little children. 6 months later, the grand festival arrives and Kaido asks Arel whether he will be participating in the battle of the 6 schools. They start arguing about which school see Arel going to fight for, while Arel asks can't he use all the magic he wants. Maddie tells Arel that this competition is supposed to be one school of magic against the other, so he will have to choose one sort of magic and roll with that. Arel decides that he will meet with the different headmasters once, and only then decide which magic he wants to use in this particular competition. A couple days pass by and Arel wakes up one day after dreaming about everything he has gone through during his time here at the Magical Academy. He tells Maddie that he still hasn't decided which school he is going to fight for, and Maddie tells him that he will have to make a decision soon. Back at the academy, most of the headmasters from each of the 6 schools are gathered as they get ready to disclose the champion of their schools, as this championship primarily happens between the best first-year students from each school. They each start about how they think that it's their school which is going to bag the first position and bring the trophy home. But they notice that the headmaster from the Dark Magic School seems to be missing. They are completely confused by this since it's a very big day for each institute. But they never really understood the Dark School anyways. And even to this date they have trouble figuring out who is a student at their institute, who is in the faculty, and whether they even teach anything. Just when they were beginning to worry about their students being late, Arel enters the gate and starts walking towards them, claiming that he is ready for the meeting. Right then, every single school teacher of that school claimed that Arel is the one who is going to be the champion representing their school. This confuses and shocks all of them, as they all think that Arel belongs to their school. But before the problem could be resolved, the sound of a huge explosion from the city rattles everyone to their core. Arel immediately realizes that something has gone really wrong, and he wonders whether his friends are safe or not. Back at the main ground, Call, Kaido, and Kyufa were helping to set everything up when Kyufa suddenly notices something past the ground walls. Kaido and the others immediately turn around confused to see a giant slime monster grabbing a bunch of smaller goblins. Kaido wonders whether it is a monster controlled by the Dark School tasked to remove any monsters from the arena. But their confusion turns to horror when the slime simply inhales the damn monsters right down his gullet before trying to make its way inside the arena. Kaido shouts at everyone about the imminent danger, and immediately chaos ensues as every single student present at the ground start running towards the school for safety, realizing that people might be in danger. Arel immediately takes to the sky to figure out what's gone wrong, and the teachers immediately follow, with the Wind Schoolmaster flying alongside him while the rest run towards the ground. The students scramble in all directions trying to escape certain death. But the fire brat who Arel's school decides that he is strong enough to deal with the monster and stands in front of it, firing attacks one after the other at the slime. To his horror, his strikes don't even scratch the beast as it continues rushing towards the boy. He would have been dead if not for Dione from the Wind School, who swooped in like a falcon and saved the boy's ass, telling him to stand down if he wants to stay alive. The brat looks utterly defeated now that he has messed up in front of the Huz, and apologizes to her, promising not to try stunts like these again. Meanwhile, Kyufa, Call, and Kaido all run towards the exit when Call ends up tripping over a rock and falls down to the ground. Kaido and Kyufa both stop immediately to help her up, but Kaido realizes that the monster is too close for them to simply try and run at this point. Kyufa immediately whips out her wand and tries using an ice wall spell, blocking the slime's path. For the moment, they think that they have bought some important time for themselves, but at the very next moment, the slime effortlessly breaks through the wall, continuing his path of destruction towards them. Kaido decides to try his luck as well, and uses a modified attack that Arel taught him. But even that turns out to be of no use as the monster eats it up like nothing. Call is beyond scared at this point, but suddenly she remembers Arel telling her to have faith in herself and fight till the end. Drawing inspiration from that, she stands back on her shaky feet, forcing herself to face her fears and uses her strongest tornado attack on the monster. To her surprise, the monster doesn't even budge from its place, and at that point, Call smiles at her own weakness, claiming that she is glad that she at least fought till the very end without worrying about messing things up. They all stand there utterly defeated, ready to face their death. But as the slime shoots out a bunch of its tentacles forward, none reach the group, as Arel jumps in between and slashes them to shreds, saving their lives. He turns back at them and smiles, claiming that they did very well. But from here, he will deal with it. The remaining professors also arrive at the scene like a bunch of Power Rangers, and the Light Master tells the kids to run off to the city hall while they deal with this monstrosity. Arel asks whether he should stay and fight, but the Flame Master tells him that he should return as well, not worrying about them as all the masters at the academy are supreme class in their magical affinity. The Blue School professor tells Arel that it's the duty of the teachers to protect the kids from any harm, and that's what they intend to do. The master from the Yellow School claims that the beast seems to have made out of black magic and wonders whether the professor of the Dark School was involved in this. The Red professor claims that this monster might be resistant to magic, as the kids tried but failed making a dent at its surface. The Blue professor tells him that at the end of the day, those were very low-powered spells used by a bunch of first-year students, and their magic should definitely be enough to deal with this ugly beast. The Blue professor uses her Permafrost spell, while the Light Magic professor uses her Holy Cross spell, which first freezes the monster before trying to destroy it. But to their surprise, that was of no use, and the monster looks just as strong and energetic as before. The Red Master and the Wind Master decide to try their luck at it as they use their spells synergistically, producing a huge flaming tornado, which the Blue teacher thinks should be enough to destroy most of the monsters from the face of Earth. To their surprise, the monster seems to be completely unaffected. In fact, the Wind Master notes that the monster seems to be getting even bigger and stronger the more they are using their spells on it. Finally, the monster decides to strike back and shoots its tentacles at them. But the Yellow Master immediately uses an Earth Wall spell to create a shield between them, capturing the monster inside a huge prison. They all get a moment of relief as they thought that the magic was enough to contain the beast. But to their horror, the wall starts breaking. The Yellow Master tells his peers that they must figure out a way to stop it soon since he won't be able to hold on for much longer. The Flame Master suggests combining all their magics at once and attack the monster, hoping that it would overwhelm and completely destroy the beast. But the Light Master claims that it is a singularly bad idea, since the monster seems to be absorbing and growing from the magic damage, and they don't know how strong it could get if they all poured their energy into it. The Blue Master starts freaking out, wondering how the hell are they supposed to fight something like this. The Slimes manages to slowly break out of its prison while Arel observes it from above with Maddie, realizing that he seems to have learned every single magic spell there is to learn at this academy. Maddie asks what exactly does he mean by that, and Arel claims that he has learned all the magic spells from the book and just wanted to see what the masters were capable of and whether they had any magical abilities which he hasn't learned before. Now that he has seen it all, he thinks that he has learned everything there was to learn at the Magic Academy. Maddie looks at the slime, claiming that it's not any simple monster, but a demon from the demon realm, and that's why it seems to be so troublesome for the teachers here. Maddie tells Arel that the monster has the ability to absorb any and everything that they throw at it and grow bigger and stronger through that. Arel asks what if they use a magic so strong that it overwhelms the demon, or use physical attacks so destructive that the monster can't even comprehend it in the first place. Maddie claims that he doesn't think that anyone has the magic or the physical abilities to do that much damage here. But Arel claims that he is going to try it regardless. He immediately summons a sword and rushes at the monster, delivering a massive strike at it, cutting off a huge chunk from it. Maddie is surprised that he was able to cut the slime, but Arel is not happy as within moments, the slime manages to regrow the damaged part. Suddenly all the teachers arrive floating on a flying carpet, asking Arel whether he is a magic swordsman class, but Arel replies that he is classless. They tell him not to joke right now, but he tells them to back off as the slime attacks people with loads of mana, as that is how it grows stronger. The teachers quickly realize that the slime is causing all this destruction in the city because it is heading towards the city hall where all their students are present at once. The red teacher refuses to leave a student behind to fight alone, but Arel tells them to make sure the other students are safe first, as he can take care of himself and slow the beast down. The teachers begrudgingly agree that they are of no use here and decide to head towards the city hall. Arel quickly creates a stone wall to capture the monster before summoning a bunch of golems and using the infinite break attack all at. To his surprise, even such a strong attack wasn't really able to do any real damage, as the golem starts regenerating once again. At this point, Arel decides to try his luck with magic again and takes out his wand before preparing a huge flame magic attack. Maddie claims that it won't be enough, but Arel isn't planning to use just the flame spell. To everyone's surprise, he starts channeling through all the different magic circles one by one before combining them into one huge LGBTQ circle. He remembers his dad telling him to avoid using this magic, as if done wrong, it could be catastrophic. But more than that, Arel realizes that he doesn't seem to have enough mana reserves, and his dad's mana must be off the charts. Just when he thought that his plan was going to fail, suddenly a bunch of mana starts flooding in his body. As through the power of friendship and bullshit, the professors manage to channel the mana of their students into Arel, who uses the incredibly powerful attack to completely decimate every single thing beneath him, removing the slime from existence in one fell swoop. With that, the students cheer as Arel descends down back to the ground, while the teachers huddle around him, asking how the hell did he manage to use all the spells at once, as that magic is legendary class and only magelords can do that. He replies that his father is a magelord and told him that only through mastering the magic from each school can a person become a magelord. The professors soon realize that their study system seems to be flawed, as they only ever teach one form of magic to their students, which means that they can never really produce any magelords. Suddenly, Arel spies a little piece of the slime still moving and picks it up before taking it back home. He uses a servant seal on it and makes it another one of his familiars, useful for getting rid of trash. Suddenly, Kufa, Kaido, and Call all burst in through the door, asking whether he is going to leave. Arel tells them that he is in fact going back home, since there is nothing left for him to learn here. And from home he will head towards the city of monsters and learn all he can about all the different kinds of monsters present in the world. The kids are a little sad that Arel is leaving, but they all say their goodbyes and watch as Arel leaves into the sunset, back towards his village. He continues flying towards his village. While Maddie asks about his family, Ar replies that he has an ordinary family and both of them are common villagers. Maddie claiming that it must make them proud, knowing that the son of a classless parents has mastered the art forms of both swordsmanship as well as wizardry. Arel turns towards him asking why he thinks his parents are classless. Maddie is confused because obviously the parents of a classless person must be classless themselves. But Arel shocks him by revealing that his mom is a sword saint and his dad is a mage lord. Maddie is shocked at this, asking how the hell do they qualify as normal villagers then. Arel claims that they have long retired from their lives as adventurers and are now comfortably living in the boonies. While moving through the sky, Arel realizes that they won't be able to reach the village tonight, which means that they must find a village on the way and get a place to stay for the night if they don't want to camp out in the forests. Thankfully, they end up spotting a village which seems healthily populated and right in the way to his village, so he decides to spend the night there and move again the next day. By the time night falls, Arel has already gotten a room for themselves, and with everything done for the day, he decides to treat himself to a refreshing hot bath. They all relax in the hot bath, when suddenly the door opens and a girl enters with a towel wrapped around her. Maddie immediately grows tense and hides behind Arel, but Arel himself doesn't seem to care and invites her in, since it is a mixed bath for both men and women. The girl thanks him and enters the bath with a relaxing sigh and settles down before asking about Arel. Maddie whispers in Arel's ears that there is something wrong with this girl, and he needs to keep his guard up. But he realizes that Arel already knows that, but is excited to see whether the girl has something new to show him which he has never seen before. That's why he is not raising his guard up. The girl asks about the reason for his journey, and Arel without hesitation replies that the only thing he wants in the world is to get as strong as possible. This seems to interest the girl, and she asks whether he likes to fight. But Arel replies that he doesn't fight for the sake of winning. He just wants to see how far he can go, and what is the potential of a classless person. The girl asks whether Arel is actually a classless person, and Arel replies that he is definitely a classless person, and has no skills of his own. But that hasn't held him back. She asks whether people make fun of him, and Arel honestly replies that people do make fun of him, but he has learnt to live with it, and it doesn't bother him anymore. He sits down and starts eating alongside the slime and Maddie. When Maddie asks whether he is sure about his decision to not see the kingdom for himself, Arel replies that he needs to go back to his parents first, and only then will he know what needs to be done. The next morning, when he leaves the inn and moves on his way, the girl from last night blocks his path once again, finally introducing herself as Princess Kiriha of the kingdom. She tells him that he needs to accompany her back to her kingdom by the order of Her Majesty the Queen. Arel replies that he doesn't really care about her queen and needs to be on his way, and asks why would a queen from a completely different nation even be interested in him. Kiriha looks down at the ground and claims that even though she doesn't know what the queen wants, it must be really important since she has been looking for a classless man named Arel for a while now. Arel replies that he doesn't really care about that either, and still wouldn't change his mind. Kiriha replies that the queen is a goddess and wouldn't hurt him. Arel replies that he is not worried about the queen hurting him, even though he seriously doubts that she can. After completely exhausting all her options, Kiriha decides to take matters into her own hands and disappears in an instant before appearing behind Arel and tries to knock him out. But Arel is too fast for her and easily dodges out of the way. Kiriha is surprised, but Arel warns her that if she wants a fight, then he will not hold back either. With that, he proves that he is a true follower of equality as he kicks her in the ovaries, dropping her down on the ground. Arel quickly looks around and estimates that roughly 10 people are hiding around in the trees and tells them to reveal themselves as he already knows about it. A bunch of ninjas quickly appear around Arel, and one of them asks how the hell did he know about them, as they were using special stealth skills to hide their presence. Arel replies that they can try to hide their presence, but that doesn't completely make them disappear, and he can still vibe check them easily. The leader of the ninjas immediately asks Kiriha whether she is okay and starts fussing over her, crying about the fact that she has gotten dirt all over her. Kiriha pushes her off, claiming that they need to focus on capturing Arel and don't treat him like a normal classless person. They try to attack him all at once, but it's of no use as Arel easily manages to defeat them all without breaking a sweat. As they all lay on the floor unconscious, they are found out by the reinforcements sent from the same kingdom, who are shocked to see one of their elite forces down for the count. They ask what happened to them, expecting that they might have gotten ambushed by enemy forces, but Kiriha responds that Arel is the one who did this to them. The other girls are shocked, asking how the hell can a single person, and that too a classless loser, defeat elite fighters like them alone. Before they could talk any further though, Arel comes out from behind a tree, eating a rice ball, asking whether they all belong to the same kingdom. The dragon lady realizes that even though Arel looks normal, he has a formidable aura, and immediately announces herself as Princess Dora the Dragon Lord, telling Arel to surrender himself to be taken in front of the queen. The beast girl Turga tells her not to be so swift as she is the one who came here first, so she should get the honor of capturing him. Arel tells them not to fight amongst themselves as they can all attack him at once, under one's condition, which is that they must attack him with their best spells and techniques, not holding back at all. The girls agree and hit him with their hardest hitting skills, but the result is the same. Both the Beast Girl squad and the Dragon Lady are on the ground soundly defeated. Arel is kinda underwhelmed as none of them showed him any abilities of note, but now he starts getting curious about why the hell does this empire want him so bad. Kiriha manages to open her eyes and tells him that their queen, the goddess, is the strongest being on Earth, and he will stand no chance against her. This gets him even more interested as he wonders what kind of new abilities might he see there. This is enough to change his mind, and he decides to go to the kingdom and see the queen for himself. He flies to the castle on his own and finds the gate wide open, so he enters the drawbridge only to get surrounded by 4 more women, all claiming to be one of the 8 imperial generals like Kiriha and the Dragon Lady. They all seem to have their own sets of special abilities and tell Arel to simply surrender. But obviously they are no match against him and easily destroy them all before entering the royal throne room. The final woman of the 8 generals stand in his way, shocked at the fact that he managed to defeat the 4 of them so easily. But before she could even take her sword out, the little queen runs past her and hugs Arel, claiming that she has been waiting for such a long time to meet him. It turns out to be none other than her older sister, who he struggles to push away, while the tall general is confused at what the hell is actually happening. Arel asks why the hell is she playing at being an empress, and his sister replies that she made a promise to herself that she will make a place where no one will ever discriminate against him on the basis of his class, and she has managed to complete her promise finally. He claims that from now on he will stay here forever, and she is even sent for their parents and their younger sister so that they can all live like a happy family in a beautiful place without any discrimination. Astia expected Arel to be happy at this and hug her, But instead he replies that he can't do that. He claims that he is classless, which means that he is not bound to a particular ability or class, which gives him a lot of freedom to do whatever he wants, making his potential basically limitless. He likes putting in the work, learning new skills, and trying to be the best fighter he could be. Astia claims at the end of the day, Arel is a grown man and can do whatever he wants. With that, Arel thanks her and turns around to leave. But Astia decides to use her secret overpowered ability called the Heavens Will, which can control the actions of another person. With that, she forces Arel to stop right where he is and turn around. Arel realizes that it's actually working, and he is forced to turn around and face her once again. Astia then decides that she wants to feel like a family from Alabama and commands him that he is going to marry her now. All her generals are shocked, but she shamelessly runs at him for a kiss, but Arel kicks her in the face, telling her to back off. Astia is confused because her spell should be absolute, but Arel is not a dumbass and used a wind barrier around his ears as a noise cancellation device, protecting himself from her spell. Astia finally accepts defeat and Arel leaves the palace, promising to come back soon to pay her a visit. With that, he finally leaves back for home and reaches there by the afternoon. His mother immediately hugs him, thankful for his safety, while his younger sister Mira jumps on him as well, delighted to see that Arel has came back with a demon and a slime. That night, Ray goes in his room, hoping for some action. But Arel simply talks about what she has learned over the last year. They talk about everything that happened and Arel describes what the City of Magic looked like. They talked deep into the night, and Ray hoped that Arel would finally start staying with them so she could get more time with him. The next morning though, Mira once again runs down the room, crying out that Arel has left a note once again that he is leaving for the City of Demons this time. Ray simply smiles, knowing that there is no stopping him, while Arel moves through the sky with Maddie excited at the possibility of learning brand new things in this next city. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.